I'd like to welcome everyone to the 14th Annual Philadelphia and Western Suburbs Trail Summit. My name is Brian Barrett. I'm the Director of Parks and Recreation for Haverford Township. And Haverford Township has been fortunate to be able to host these since their inception back in 2013. And every year we get some more people, and every year we beef up our agenda, so it's been a really good process. I want to point out the people who did the planning for this. So Elaine, who you just heard from. Eileen's going to be our MC and the timekeeper. Eileen's the Assistant Director of Parks and Recreation for Haverford Township, and she's been help coordinating these events for like the last 5 years. We also have James Bergen and Bill Kaplan. James and Bill are co-chairs of the Delco Trails Alliance, and James is also chair of Bike Delaware County, and Bill is acting director for leisure services in Upper Darby, and both of them will be presenting today. We also have Patrick Monahan, who helped us organize it. Patrick's the regional organizer of the Bicycle Coalition of Greater Philadelphia. And Rich Kerr and Peter Puglianese of Haverford Trails. Rich and Peter were the initiators of this program back in 2013 and have been involved from the beginning. And they have been tireless advocates for trails in Haverford Township. I also want to acknowledge some elected leaders who are here today. Jerry Hart from the 8th Ward of Haverford Township is on the Board of Commissioners. He's also the Parks and Recreation Commissioner and also a frequent member volunteer at our work days. And we're expecting Judy Trombetta, but I don't see her in the audience. She's the president of the Haverford Township Board of Commissioners. We also have Elaine Schaefer, councilwoman from Delaware County Council, and Elaine has been coming to these from the beginning. And Tim Kearney will be presenting later. I don't think he's here yet, state senator. And Sarah McCullough, the chief of staff of the center, will also be here. So now I'm going to hand it off to Elaine, who's going to introduce our first speaker.
Okay, before I introduce the first speaker, I'm just going to tell you a few things. We're going to try to use the lapel mic because people tend to go like this and then no one can hear them. And I'm also going to say, when you come up here, there is a wire. We are very, very high tech here. We have Jeff over here who then films everything, and we will have it on our website, and it is top notch. So make sure you check it out. But most importantly, don't trip over the wire. Okay, our first speaker is Elaine Schaefer. She's a councilwoman from Delaware County Council. Elaine, come on up.
Yes. Hi, everyone. I hope you all are doing well and warm. Many of you know that in addition to being on council, I am also the executive director of Schuylkill River Greenways, which is an organization that builds the Schuylkill River Trail. And my entire career and my passion has been trails, open space, natural resource protection, all the things that make our communities better, bring us quality of life, and revitalize our communities. So this day is one of my favorite days of the year because we all get to get together and hear about the great work that's being done in our county. I love coming here. It's so well run. Thank you to everybody who put so much time to do it. They say imitation is the most sincere form of flattery. And there are several other regional trail summits that have popped up in the last couple of years, all modeled on this one. So that is sincere flattery. And I do have to point out that this is the OG and the best one. So today you're going to hear some really exciting and cool projects that the county is moving forward with from our planning director, Gina Burrett. Really good stuff. There's actual construction happening and coming. But I do feel like I have to acknowledge the dry spell we have had at the county in our Greenways program. For the last few years, we have not funded that program. If you are Delaware County residents, you're probably aware of the financial issues that we've had and the very substantial tax increases that we've had at the county level. So it's been a tough environment to be the advocate for trail funding and open space funding. And I have been trying hard, but my advocacy has not taken the day in the last couple of years. I continue to try. The bright spot is that rounds 1 through 4 of the Greenways money that filtered down to all of our municipalities is now all those projects are now coming to life and coming to fruition. And all of that money that was committed is now flowing out. So the projects are going to continue to come, and we are still working on a way to fund more, to refund the Greenways program. In fact, last week, Council approved a contract with the Trust for Public Land to do a feasibility study and a voter poll to get the temperature of Delaware County residents about whether they would support an open space bond in the midterm election. I don't know how that's going to turn out. As I said, this is a challenging environment that we're in. But fingers crossed, I hope that does happen. I will be advocating for it, and let's hope that my advocacy does take the day this time. But today we're here to hear about the projects that are funded and are moving forward. I'm really looking forward to it. And thank you all for coming out on this really cold morning. Thanks.
Great. Thanks, Elaine. Okay. Our first speakers today are the people who ran this, who collected everyone's presentation, who have been meeting for months. It is Patrick Monahan right here and James Bergen.
Now we're finding out how smooth we are with this. Yeah, so you can put it right up here. It's pressure.
Test.
Wait, I have to- Okay.
Test. That's great.
Slideshow.
Yeah. Good morning, everybody. Give a regional update on the circuit trails. Try to make sure I'm not giving any feedback. You okay, James?
I'm okay. Yeah, I'm just looking for presentation view.
Okay.
Slide. Oops, sorry.
No worries.
Got. Oh yes.
So,
Once again, PC issue. Okay. Okay. Where did that go? Sorry. Okay, the presentation should be right here.
Pull the mic out.
Yeah, okay.
thank you.
I don't know how this all of a sudden happened, but oh man, okay.
It's good.
Hold on. Okay, we're gonna have to use the PDF on this one. I don't know how I changed the slideshow, but all right.
Sorry.
And then how do I do view on this one?
Just so if everyone knows, if I was running the slides, you wouldn't even have that on.
I should use my computer. Patrick, do you use a
Can
PC?
we have our Commissioner Judy come back? Judy, wave to the crowd.
Okay.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, but this was okay.
Not down there.
Not
And
down
I
there.
always say Judy's
Yeah,
on.
that one. That one. Okay. Full screen. Full screen mode. Oh, down here. Okay, good. There we go. All right. Sorry, Pat.
You did it.
All right.
Thanks.
All right.
All right.
Okay.
Good morning, everybody. We're going to do a regional update on the circuit trails before we dive in on the Delaware County specifics. You can go to the next slide.
Okay.
I'm Patrick Monahan. I'm the regional organizer with the Bicycle Coalition, and I also serve as the Pennsylvania chair for the Circuit Trails Coalition. So right now, or as of November of 2025, we have 420 trails that are existing. We have 92 miles that are in progress, with 59 of those miles fully funded, moving along. They're as far along as they can go in that process. We have 111 that are in pipeline, and then 249 miles that are planned. So in total, that brings us to 872 miles. And for folks that may be unaware of what those statuses mean, I can go really quickly through each one. So the ones that are in progress, those are trails that are currently being designed or built. We have a few projects that are in progress status to give you an overview on that. The ones that are in pipeline are Delaware Valley Regional Planning Commission, local governments, and nonprofit organizations that are actively working to move those trails forward by conducting studies, acquiring rights of way, engaging local communities, and laying the groundwork to obtain funding for future design and construction. And those that are in planned are usually documented in some local, county, or regional plans that represent excellent opportunities for regional scale, multi-use trails. Studies or plans may have been prepared for these trails, but a sponsor is not actively working to move them forward. And looking at last year, when I had given this update, we actually were at 413 existing miles. So we've gained 7 miles in the last year, which is great. So we can go to the next slide. So yeah, making progress on the circuit trails. I always like to show the map to show the regional scale of all the different trails. You have a sense of the existing and progress pipeline and plan now. And they go outside of the region, of course, out into Berks County as the Schuylkill River Trail continues in that direction. And we move along to fill in the gaps, advocacy and trail development. So we'll go into the project updates. So I had a couple of projects that I want to highlight today. We typically have Lower Marion Township with us, but they weren't able to join. So I really wanted to highlight the work that they did in 2025 around the Kinwood Heritage Trail. So that little segment that's highlighted in red is the segment that was completed this year, and I'll go a little bit further into detail there. So the trail extends from the existing Kinwood Heritage Trail in Lower Marion Township to City Line Ave. It has access to many existing circuit trails in Philadelphia. As you can see there, the Maniac Bridge is a big one. Schuylkill River Trail, this is the cemetery in Laurel Hill, Wissahickon, and MLK Drive. And the planned trails that are in the Philadelphia side are the Parkside Winfield Kinwood Trail, Ivy Ridge Trail, the Wissahickon Gateway, which many folks here probably are aware of, SEPTA, of course, as this is a rail with trail project, and then the Mainline Greenway, which if folks aren't familiar with that, you could have an entire presentation on that subject, as it's a really awesome network of low-stress roads throughout many townships in Montgomery and Delaware counties to get people to where they want to go safely. So a couple other things I want to note on this map before we're still seeing it, right? Yep. So you're seeing it might be hard to see for folks out there, so I just want to label it out for you. So the Lower Marion Planning Department has provided the map of the City Ave Trail Network with the recent completed segments colored in red running parallel to the SEPTA Regional Rail Line, the Kinwood Line. Those that are marked 12 to 18 months include the paths and trails that are in progress, that are related to approved developments that are required to build those trails to connect with the network, which is great progress and really exciting timeline there. Those that are marked as planned involve other parts of the City Avenue Trail Master Plan. Any new developments within those areas will need integrated trails indicated within their plans as conditions are approved. So we can go to the next slide. All right. So the map here focuses on the area served more directly by the extension, with labels noting how many residential units are nearby with multifamily buildings. In total, there are 900 plus residential units in close proximity to the trail segment. So serving many residents to get to the circuit trails, to get to SEPTA, to get to their jobs, to get to City Ave. So really just an amazing amount of connections from this small.
Question about SEPTA lines. It's kind of a general question. How hard is it to get a trail initiated along a SEPTA line? Can you make a general statement on that, or is it by area?
Yeah, so the question was, how do we work with SEPTA to build more trail? It depends. It can be complicated. Could be a slew of utilities within close proximity to the SEPTA's right of way. It can delay process. It can be expensive. So it can take quite a while. It can be complicated, or it could go smoothly. Yes, so we can go to the next slide. And yes, this trail is complete. It is almost a half a mile in length. The funding came from the Township of Lower Marion, the Township of Lower Marion was awarded a PennDOT Transportation Assistance Program, or TAP grant, in 2025 for the amount of $410,000, which was the remaining amount needed to complete the project, with a total of $2.25 million to put this project together. So I mentioned the additional connections to housing there, and the next steps will be working with SEPTA and the township to plan to extend the trail through the Bala Station parking lot where the trail currently ends. and under City Avenue Bridge, which will then lead to the Philadelphia side. And so here are just some photos that we can check out. This was the trail under construction, as you can see. And we can go to the next slide. Here are some photos of the completed trail. You can see some of the tighter areas where they go with some of the utilities along the SEPTA right of way there, in terms of the trail being a little more narrow than the standard circuit standard there. And then the next one will show the center of the trail where it's a little wider there. So really exciting connection there. And now I will take us into Philadelphia. So you'll see the red line just there highlighted on the map is the continuation of the Kenwood Heritage Trail. And we'll talk a bit about where that's at. Go to the next slide. So here's a map provided by the city. So where you see proposed project in blue, that's the segment we'll be focusing on. Was recently completed as a connection to the Kenwood Heritage Trail in Lower Marion. Many of the connections shown on the map are listed here for clarity. So again, a number of the same trails with the addition of the Winfield station throughout the SEPTA line there. I also want to highlight the bike lanes that it would connect to at the very south end. So you may see there's a green line closer to MLK Drive south. It's kind of on the southern portion of the, there it is. So that would connect us to Parkside Ave bike lane and then Lansdowne Drive, which would then inevitably loop us back to MLK Drive. So really creating this incredible loop to get around by bicycle and walking in the Lower Marion and Philadelphia areas. Which? Oh yes. Yeah, that is completed. Sorry, yeah. Yeah, so just making that connection once that's completed. Yes, yeah. All right, we can go to the next slide. So here's a rendering to give you a sense of what it'll look like when the trail is complete, and then what's the existing condition. So really the most exciting thing about this segment is this is going to be Philadelphia's first rail with trail along the SEPTA right of way, which is really incredible. The project is currently in design. The community engagement process is in progress, so they're moving along with that. The trail is estimated at 1.3 miles. The features would be circuit standard 10 feet wide, asphalt, and a stairway connecting to the trail up to City Ave. The timeline design is underway currently, beginning as of fall in 2025 to December of 2026. Construction is expected to begin in summer of 2027, leading to the fall of 2028. And at that point, if everything goes to plan, the trail will be complete by the fall of 2028. Funding came together through, design funds came together through a grant from the Delaware Valley Regional Planning Commission and state grants from the Department of Community Engagement Development, DCDE, and Pennsylvania Department of Transportation, PennDOT. So a really exciting connection there. And then just wanted to talk, I always like to talk a little bit about how we celebrate the circuit trail. So we're always watching the status, we move forward and all that. But it's always important to take a step back and kind of celebrate all the progress that we're making throughout the network. So we had a really great celebration in the fall of 2025 where we went to Cherry Street Pier. There was hundreds of people there. We had phenomenal speakers from our trail development folks, but also from our community partners who were activating the network. And just, riding on the circuit, walking the circuit. We had a running club there. Just, showing all the different ways people are activating the circuit trails is really a critical part of what the Circuit Trails Coalition loves to highlight. It's trail development, it's maintenance, and it's programming and activation. These are all really critical things. So just pulling everybody together, celebrating. It was also worth noting that we had a campaign goal of reaching 500 miles by 2025. So we wanted to acknowledge where we were at that moment. So as I mentioned, we were at 420. There's 60 miles that are in progress and fully funded. So we're getting pretty close to that. We kind of celebrated ahead of time, but progress is being made for sure. We can go to that next slide. So I always like to encourage people to sign up if you haven't already. This QR code takes you to the newsletter page, but I also love to make people know aware of the Circuit Citizens. You can select your county in this page, and then you get county specific actions. So it's a great way to stay plugged in with Delaware County, or if you're coming from somewhere else in the region, on those specific types of things. And then of course, if you're not already following the newsletter, we highlight things like this, like the summit and rides and the celebration we held at the end of 2025. I'll just leave that up for a little while because folks are grabbing that. And then that's the end of my presentation. My contact information is on the next slide. If anyone would like to reach out, patrick@bicyclecoalition.org. Thank you.
I'll turn it on here.
Yeah. Right.
I think we do need to be near that mic.
Yeah.
Is there any technology that lets you, as you're biking, get the history of the area, this house, and so and so?
Is this the pointer?
Yes.
Yeah.
Let's put it up there.
Okay,
Talk to you. Yeah.
all right. First off, thank you all for coming to the summit. I'm James Bergman, the chair of Bike Delaware County, and a longtime Mac user who apparently has completely forgotten how to use a PC. But yeah, I really wanted to thank you all for coming. I'm just amazed. It's super, super cold outside, and yet it is standing room only in here. So fantastic. Although actually not quite. There are a few seats if anyone wants to take them. And also thank you very much. Brian did all the acknowledgments and everything, but special thank you to Rich and Peter for all their guidance. Even Rich today, showing me how to, deal with how I somehow completely destroyed the PowerPoint presentation of the version of that presentation. And also, thanks to Patrick. He's also the PA VP for the Circuit Trails Coalition. And he has provided a lot of the support for the Delco Trails Alliance. And congratulations, guys, on just about getting to 500 miles. And I'm glad to see that the Circuit Trails Coalition has not slowed down since then. Also, did you know that you could actually get the Ben Franklin Bridge lit up in your colors if you just fill out an application? So it was all lit up in the Circuit Trails colors. It was really cool. Okay, so on to Bike Delaware County. I normally talk about all the stuff that Bike Delco has done, and I'm going to do a little bit of that, certainly. But I also kind of one of the things I've noticed this year as I've been walking around, biking around, is how much stuff is just cropping up that, is, bike related, bike tandem, but has not come from Bike Delco. That's not new, but I'm seeing more of it and more of it each year. So that's really, really quite, even as the county has, had some funding freezes and so on, you're seeing a lot of community initiatives. So I really want to highlight a lot of that. All right, next slide. All right, so we had a productive year. We've continued to expand our network of people on the Bike Delco newsletter. Let me know if you want to join it, if you're not already on it. We've got a whole bunch of people from all over the county at this point. Next slide. We had a great ride of the Darby Creek Trail. We got to travel. We saw the Darby Creek Trail, and we've got a lot of people coming down. This is a photo of people coming down Bloomfield Avenue. People at the Swedish Cabin. We did a tour of the Swedish Cabin, which actually was way more thorough than I was actually ever expecting. So that was fantastic. But we also sort of highlighted all the different components of the Darby Creek Trail. And very much as we like to do with our Edges of Possibility tours, we showed how you can get from fragment to fragment. Hopefully, we're hoping very soon, we're seeing a lot of progress on it. We won't have to worry about getting between fragments, but there are ways to do it. And so I kind of showcased that as well. Next. And then also, we've actually been, tabling at quite a few events. Tabled at back to school nights. We've tabled at e-bike demonstrations, bike rodeos, environmental expos. We actually didn't get to table at as many events as people wanted us to table at because we just didn't quite have the capacity yet. So we're getting to the point where we have to start turning people down. Still working on that. And then we're represented on committees. Next slide. Yeah, so we've got, we're making sure our interests are represented on Upper Darby is doing a Safe Streets for All plan. We're bringing bicyclists' interests to that. The Delco Trails Alliance, of course, we've been on there for a very long time. The Chester Creek Trail Connector in Chester, the Chester Creek Trail Phase 4 feasibility study. All of these things, we're making sure that bicyclists are, being represented there. Anytime you want to make sure that if you have any ideas or anything like that, please email me at Bike Delco. Next slide. But other things that I've noticed, and this is really fascinating. I'll start with just my house in Springfield. looking out the window around 8 a.m., I'm seeing lots more bicyclists just kind of like going by, looking like they're commuting to work, basically. This is all impressionistic, of course, but we're also seeing, I used to go, if I biked to Morton train station, it was pretty easy to get to lock my bike up at one of the 2 inverted U-racks. At this point, when I go to Morton station, I need to lock my bike up on the fence on the other side of the actual station, because there are so many bikes locked up. You can see one of them is locked up on the railing there. There's substantially more bicycles than you generally see, and that's actually really. I might use the laser pointer actually. Yeah. So then the other thing is I'm seeing a lot of bikes in media. I'm actually seeing kids' bikes locked up before kids are biking to school in Media Borough. I'm also seeing more bikes. So it's actually getting harder and harder to find a place to lock up your bike. Is not the moral of the story. The moral of the story is more people are biking, which is fantastic. And now we need more bike racks. So the demand seems to be increasing. This is impressionistic right now, anecdotal, but it's also something I really want to kind of highlight. Next slide. All right, then we've got the community-sponsored initiatives, things that have, Bike Delco didn't initiate this, but we have Swarthmore Borough put up a bike rack that also doubles as a piece of sculpture. One of our action team members, Joe Leach, actually put up, this is in his workshop, but he actually has put this out in front of the Delaware County Institute of Science as part of the bike rack network. So people taking it upon themselves to put bike racks outside of their places of business. And then in Chester City, 2 maintenance stations have been put up, courtesy of Youth Development United and some of their sponsors like Power Home Remodeling. This is, Janine Fallon and Kitis a number of years ago contacted us and said, hey, you want to do a bike road? Can we do some biking activities? We started with that, and that's just kind of like off and running. I actually didn't have anything to do with these bicycle stations. But more stuff is happening with bikes in a lot of these other organizations. And then you've got services too. So Patrick, next slide. All right, so Ed Klein is right here. He has started Klein Rent and Ride, which is an e-bike rental service. So if you need to rent an e-bike or something, they will bring the e-bike to your place, and you can rent it for the day, rent it for half a day, I think, something like that. But anyway, and we actually had a demonstration of e-bikes in October. So that's another example. We've also got Peter Puglianese giving out bike bells in Haverford, because he's noticed that there are a lot more kids biking to and from school and to other places in Haverford now that it's, that there are more bike lanes and so on. And then also Ira Josephs has continued the work of Farm Econ. Both people are here actually at this point, and Ed is also here, of having bike valet at Media Dining Under the Stars. And so that is hopefully going to, come about once again this year. Still working on getting a good volunteer base for that, but at the same time, that's happening. And so these are all things where I'm just kind of like, oh, great, okay, I'll point people to it, and people can use it, and that's really kind of a very positive development, I think. Next slide. All right. Also, where there is bike infrastructure, people are defending it rather quickly. Lansdowne, for instance, we had a little bit of a scare. We were worried that, people in Lansdowne were a bit worried that they were going to take away one of the bike lanes that was actually on, South Lansdowne Avenue in this case. And so I was able to, contact a bunch of people in Lansdowne, say what's going on here. And we got a letter together. We got a bunch of people's testimony on how they use the bike lanes and so on. Quickly sent it to the council before their meeting. And fortunately, I was very quickly told by one of the council members that they had no intention of moving the bike lane over. They were going to keep the bike lane and add another bike lane. So phew on that. And now apparently Lansdowne is actually officially declared May to be Bike Month in Lansdowne. So that's pretty great there. So that happened like within the span of a few days to a week. And so I was like really, really happy to see that there were, some serious efforts to make sure that like the progress is still, well, first of all, that people have grown very attached to this infrastructure. And secondly, that the progress is being made, that they're keeping that progress and no one's winding it back. All right, next slide. All right, we're doing some upcoming rides. Haven't gotten all of them on the calendar yet. Hopefully May 30th, the Chester Bike Corridor Improvement Partners is opening up their Bike the Pike route. And that's the Bicycle Coalition is organizing that ride. And then the other thing is we're really hoping this year, I was hoping to do it last year, but we want to do a Tinicum Island Road Fort Mifflin bike ride as well, because it's just so great to see that infrastructure. And Bob Thomas is going to talk a little bit more about Tinicum later on. Final slide. But now we've grown a bunch, we've done a bunch of stuff. Want to be strategic about this. Want to develop baselines. So I'm talking about, look, there's a bicyclist outside my house. I would like to actually have data on this. How many more bicyclists are there in Delaware County in different spots? I mean, Bill Kaplan has talked a lot about all the bicyclists who are using them as delivery vehicles in Upper Darby, and then also using bicycles in a lot of other ways. Organize a more robust tabling force so we can actually be represented at all the events where people want us represented. I want to get the Media Smedley Connector going. I want to start developing a network of champions of that route, because Springfield to Media is an important route there's no other really good way to do it. And then more short practical rides, similar to the Northwest Cycling Club. People can bike to get their groceries. People can bike to school. People can bike to and do a lot of other things. And then also, unfortunately, this year we've had a number of fatalities in Delaware County. The most recent being Teddy Einstein, who was killed on the Bicyclist Baltimore Pike in the Upper Darby section. And we are actually going to do a ghost bike at that location. And we're also coordinating more with Families for Safe Streets of Greater Philadelphia to kind of highlight some of take initiative and make improvements to these intersections where there have been fatalities. And we have now representation of Families for Safe Streets in Delaware County. So that is kind of the broad outline of things that I'd like to achieve next year. Next slide. The other thing, and this is really exciting. Okay, if you want to learn more, email bikedelco@gmail.com. But we are also getting a landing page on the Bicycle Coalition website, and where you can see all the different things going on in Delco and all the different ways of getting in touch with different people. Very excited about that. So you don't have to just listen to me drone on in my newsletter all the time, although happy to have you do that. But you can actually go someplace and really get first stop shopping on a lot of this stuff. So yeah, thank you guys very much for this. I know that was a whirlwind tour. And Patrick and I are happy to take any questions that you guys might have.
How do you measure the number of bikes using a trail?
Oh, good question. Well, so yeah, I'll repeat. Oh yes, how do you measure the number of bikes using a trail? Well, I mean, right now there's a couple of different ways that it's done. I can point to Friends of Haverford Trails. They've done basically monitored bike use detectors to monitor bicyclists going by and on the Darby Creek Trail. So that's one thing that you can definitely do. And actually Rich appears to have an answer to that as well. Yes.
Okay. We have one bike counter in Delaware County installed in one Delaware County. It's on the Darby Creek Trail. There's about 15 of them around There's about 15 around the entire region installed by the Delaware Valley Regional Planning Commission, and the information is available on the website that they have. It's updated monthly. They're not entirely reliable, so there are gaps in the data from month to month, but they provide the best resource for bike counts. Typically, they're cyclical. They went way up during COVID. Everybody's looking for somebody to have a house safely, but they go down in winter, they go up in the summer. They actually have a little dip in July or August, depending on which month's hotter, but it's very weather dependent. What they found and what we've seen on the Darby Creek Trail is pedestrians are much more year-round than bicyclists. Bicyclists tend to be our warm weather friends. When it's in the wet winter, people still out there walking. The Bike Coalition does informal bike counts, but generally within Philadelphia city limits. And beyond that, it's really hard to do a bike You really need to have people out there with clipboards and counters. It's not that easy to get the data. Having the data for the Pocket Creek Trail is great, but at this point, now that we understand the trends, it's not adding much new information for us.
Thank you very much, Rich. And Patrick and I are exploring.
Up to one Delaware County counter now.
Rich said never, in case that didn't pick up on the. But yeah, I'd actually say like one of the things Patrick and I are exploring is bringing doing bike counts in some places, especially ones with a lot of bike infrastructure. Really, at this point, unfortunately, it's to get a baseline because we haven't done these bike counts before. So it's to really figure out like, okay, people are doing this much now. What if we put in an extra bike lane? Do we see more of this? If we protect the bike lane, do we see more bike traffic? And so we're really looking. This is very impressionistic at this point. Me just kind of like looking and saying, "Oh, a bicyclist there." But you can also see like if you're looking at bikes that are locked up. Yeah, Rich.
The last question was from Kennett Square, and it's always interesting having things happen in Chester County, particularly Kennett Square in Westchester.
Excellent.
Can you actually tell them how to get hold of Bike Chesco?
Yes, we actually have a member of the chair of Bike Chesco here, so we will definitely put you guys in touch. And also just remember the break is a good time to network and everything. Are we out of time? Okay. All right.
We'll do one.
Oh yeah, one more question?
One more right here.
Sure.
I just want to give a word of thanks to Patrick and James because I'm one of the co-signers of the letter to Lansdowne Council about the possible removal of the bike lane. And these guys are the bomb. Okay, it was so awesome.
Yeah.
So awesome.
Yeah. We made sure we saw what they were what happens if you do start to try to mess with that. So okay. I don't know how to turn this thing off here, but okay. I'm going to do a better job of not destroying Gina's presentation.
You're good.
Okay. That's why we have the PDFs.
Okay. And we try to stay on time with this, and we factored in a little bit of time for questions, and we're doing great right now, but there will be an opportunity at the end to ask more questions.
Yeah.
So up next, we have Gina Burrett. She's the director of Delaware County Planning Department.
Oh, here we are.
Yeah.
That's what you did with lapel.
Yeah,
You want
that's fine.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Grab that, just that.
Awesome. Okay. Thank you, Rich.
Put yourself
Okay.
on. Yeah, you have a good thing to wear.
Yeah. Does that work?
Now it's on. Go ahead. Talk.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right.
Yeah, yeah.
Perfect.
All right.
Let's see that.
Just tell me what to advance.
Okay. Fairly obvious, but all right. I guess I don't need that.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Now that we got the logistics out of the way, I was a little bit nervous about that part of it, but we're all good. Thank you very much for the opportunity to talk today about what's going on in Delaware County. I also want to recognize Councilman Schaefer. It's great to have a passionate trail advocate leading us, but it's also great to have someone who's also a technical expert. So I think we're really, really lucky and in a really unique situation to have both in one person. So thank you for all the work you do to advocate for trails and for funding for trails in Delaware County. I also just want to recognize some of my fellow Delaware County Planning Department members. So during the break, feel free to talk to any of us if you have any questions or ideas. So Lou Hoffnagel is in the back. He's the manager of our infrastructure section. They do a lot of the day-to-day work on trail planning. Kelsey Stanton Murphy is also here from the planning department. She's in our environmental section, but she's also a planner and a landscape architect. So that's a great resource to have in the department. And then Mihir Rishtogi is also in the back as well. He's an infrastructure planner in the planning department. He works a lot with transit, but he's getting more involved with trails. And then a lot of you may know Peter Williamson. He wasn't able to make it today, but he comes to us from Natural Lands, been a great asset to our department as well in all of our trail planning and manages a lot of our trail projects. So I just wanted to recognize all of them. Thank everyone for being here. I think it's great on a really cold, windy day to be reminded that eventually the snow will melt and we can get back on the trails. I know my family, we live in Haverford Township. We're very lucky to have a great trail network. We use it all the time. So thank you to everyone. Thank you to the public works departments of all our municipalities, because it's been a really rough winter, so they've done a great job. So I want to get going on our actual presentation. So a lot of things to cover today. I do have a bunch of QR codes. I'll just give you that heads up to help guide you to where you can find some additional information. But I wanted to start with our primary trail network. It's the hub. It's something we released this year. It's been a work in progress for a while. We're really excited for this. And that QR code will take you to our hub, but it lists all of their projects. There's mapping for all of our projects, for trails that are open, all of our primary trail network in Delaware County. So a lot of that correlates to what the Circuit Trail Coalition map shows. This is just really specific for Delaware County. For any projects that are in development, it gives you a status. We also list projects that municipalities are doing, and it links to their, if they have a page, a website that has status updates as well. So it's a really great place to go for all trail information in Delaware County. So just wanted to put a plug in for that. Really happy that finally launched this year. And then we can get into, sorry, the next slide. I forgot to show you next.
Yes, okay.
We have a lot of trail projects going on. Sometimes I wish we were only focused on one, but we've got a lot of different trail corridors, which is great. It's a great problem to have. So we'll go through several of them. Chester Creek Trail, Darby Creek Trail, East Coast Greenway, and then a little bit of an update on Delco Woods. So next one. Starting with Chester Creek Trail Phase 2. So this will link the existing trail in Middletown and bring the trail 1.3 miles through Middletown and into Aston. And we're very excited. This project is really getting close to being done with final design, and we'll be moving into construction. I was hoping construction might start this year, but it looks like more likely that it'll be going to construction next year, hopefully early next year. So this will also have 2 trailheads that will also be part of this project. So we'll have 37 additional parking spaces along this trail corridor. So Bridgewater and Dutton Mill Road will both be trailheads for this section of the trail. So very excited for that one to get moving. And we have Circuit Trail line item funding through the TIP for this project. So we have the funding secure, all the right-of-ways secure. It really is just buttoning up the permitting and all of that. But we really are very close for this project to get moving. So very excited for that one. And then moving to another section of the Chester Creek Trail. So this is Phase 4, and this is a feasibility study. So just looking at how can we make some connections in Chester Township and Upland Borough. And so we just started with this one. We do have a open house coming up at Redwood Community Center on March 7th from 11 to 3. It's an open house. You can drop in, check out the different alternatives that our consultant has been working on to show how we can make some of those connections. So we'd love to see everyone there to give some input. We've gotten a lot of really good feedback on this project. People are excited to see where this could go. So please come on out to that as well. So that's at the Redwood Community Center in Upland Park, if I didn't mention that or not. Continuing on our journey on Chester Creek Trail, this is one that's going to go to construction. We actually have a kickoff meeting. So this is for the Knowlton Road parking lot. If anyone's been out there, you know that parking lot is very well used. It reaches capacity very quickly, and people start parking on the sides of the road and start parking in unsafe ways. So this will expand that parking lot to 40 spaces. We received an LSA grant for this. And like I said, kickoff meeting with the contractor, Miko, is Tuesday. We're hoping that in the spring, once we get a thaw and they can start getting out there, that project will go to construction, and it'll take several months to complete. But hopefully that'll be a really great addition and really fix a safety issue that we're aware of out there. So that's everything for Chester Creek Trail. So moving a little closer to this area for the lower Darby Creek Trail, we have a couple different projects going on along there as well. So first is a really exciting project. I'm actually really excited for this one. I love them all, but this one is really not just a recreational trail, but really a transportation trail is how I really kind of think about this one, and an economic development driver. So it's our lower Darby Creek Loop Trail, which is a 1 mile connection that will link both county property. So we need to find a new name, but it's sometimes called the New County Park. Sometimes it's called Little Flower. It will be named during this process, but it'll link that park with Bartram Park Penn Pine Park, the SEPTA Transportation Center in Darby, commercial, residential, so really a great recreation, economic, and transportation network for this trail. We secured most of the right-of-way, but we still have a piece at Mercy Fitzgerald Hospital. They haven't necessarily been the biggest fans of this trail, so we're still working on that. So if anyone has any connections there and wants to put a little advocacy, we'd love that. But that really will be a really impactful project there. In conjunction with that, we're also doing an update on the master plan for this new county park, Little Flower Manor Park. Currently now, so phase 1 was completed. There was a loop trail put into the park, and that's incredibly well used. It is loved. People are out there all the time walking, with their dogs, with their kids. It's a great feature in that park. So now we're looking at what else can we do in that park. So this is phase 2. And we just got started a couple months ago with our consultant HRG, and there is an upcoming public meeting for this one as well, February 24th from 6 to 8 at the Darby Borough Administrative Building. And there is also a survey. The link, or not the link, but the address, the web address is on the screen as well. If you want to fill that out, we're just trying to get feedback on what people are looking for in addition to what we've already have out there currently. So all of that, I think we'll work together to really create a great focal point. And the folks who are doing the master plan have also been asked to figure out a way to connect the park to the Darby Creek Loop Trail. The topography out there is a little bit challenging, but we know that they're going to find some really good solutions to make sure that we can get from the park, because they're right there, to make sure you can get from one to the other. So I'm excited to see what they come up for that one. Also along Darby Creek Trail is our elevated trail section in Clifton Heights Borough and also in Upper Darby, Lansdowne. So there were a bunch of feasibility studies, concepts that were looked at for this particular portion. It's a complicated area to put a trail into. So the elevated trail was decided to be the best, not the cheapest definitely, but the best solution for this section. So if you know where the Lidl is a commercial development there. So it would go behind that along the creek. So you're dealing with some flooding issues also. So some of this will be elevated above the parking lot. So I think when it's done, it'll be really impactful. It'll be a portion that people want to go on to because it'll be different than other sections of trail in other places. So working on the design now, that will be expected to be completed in spring of 2027. The next big challenge then is to find funding for this trail section. Same with the Lower Darby Creek Trail. That's something we got the money for design. We're working on the design. Now it's moving on to, okay, how can we fund these projects? So we're currently working on that situation now, but excited for the possibilities for both of those. And then moving into the East Coast Greenway in the city of Chester. If anyone was aware, the planning department had worked with the city of Chester and DVRPC on a study looking at a road diet on the section of 291 in the city of Chester that had advanced. Our study determined that it was feasible. We went after a Reconnecting Communities grant, so we received $2.5 million from the federal government for this project. And then thanks in large part to work with our collar counties and DVRPC, we're able to get $36 million programmed into the TIP for this project. So this is a project, we have the funding, now we just have to go through the process. So we're really excited for that, to know that this project will move forward in some form or fashion. Working with PennDOT, PennDOT is now the lead on the project, but we are still partners with them, as is the city of Chester, and we have a very large stakeholder group. So the project has just started with CDM Smith is the consultant for the project. So we've been working with them. There's a lot of traffic data that's being collected now to make sure that we're all comfortable with whatever data is going to be used to determine what we do on this portion. But again, this is another really big, important piece of trail network in the county. Again, not just recreation. It's recreation for sure. But again, it's also economic development. It's also a great transportation corridor. So creating that whole connection of the East Coast Greenway in Delaware County is really, really important to the county And this will be a huge piece in kind of making that connection. So very excited for that one. It will probably take a while, to be honest, but we have funding. And then I just want to go through the Delco Woods Loop Trail. So if everyone's familiar with Delco Woods, it's in Marple Township, 213 acres that the county acquired. We did a master plan process for that. That wrapped up last year, I believe it was. And so we're now looking, how do we implement some of the recommendations in there? The first project that we are going to look to do is this Delco Woods Loop Trail, which is a 0.5 mile ADA accessible paved trail going from the existing, there's a small parking lot off of Reed Road, and then putting the trail, and that will connect to the unpaved trails that already exist. And then hopefully we can start working on those unpaved network, create a better flow, cut off some of the trails that are going into areas with erosion, and making sure that we're directing people to the trails in the park that we'd like them to go to, and making sure there's signage and all of that. But I would like to thank DCNR. They just announced that we received a $300,000 grant that will help fund this trail, and then we'll be using Act 13 funding as well to match the award from DCNR. So Jeannie's here, so thank you very much. So that'll be going to council for approval to accept that grant, and then hopefully we can really kind of get moving on that pretty quickly. So those are all of our all of it. That's a lot. So it was a very busy 2025, and I think 2026 is going to be even busier. But I did want to just kind of give a shout out to our Vision Zero safety plan. As James had mentioned during his presentation, there have been some fatalities and really, really sad, tragic occurrences in Delaware County. And I think it's really important that we kind of always bring things back to safety and connect them. Because as you'll see, we think safety and transportation are foundational to all the work we do. So if you're not familiar with the concept of Vision Zero, it's an approach to eliminate traffic-related fatalities and serious injuries down to zero. An ambitious goal, but a really important goal, because none of us, I think, are willing to let anyone that we love go. So in February of 2025, Delaware County Council adopted the Vision Zero Safety Action Plan for Delaware County, and we're very, very proud of that. So in that report, it acknowledges that transportation-related deaths and serious injuries are preventable, that people make mistakes, but they shouldn't be deadly, that roads should be safe for everyone. So for people in cars, but also people on bikes, people walking, kids walking to school, everyone should be safe on our transportation network. Responsibility is shared amongst all of us, right? Amongst engineers and planners and police and elected officials, everyone, people who are driving, people who are biking, we all have our part to play in creating a safer network. That engaging with the community early and often is required, and that's something that we've been doing through this whole process. That transportation safety improvements are proactive, not reactive. Too often we just react after the crashes have occurred, right? It's a little bit too late. And that streets and neighborhoods with the highest crash data should be the ones that are prioritized, and that's what our plan has done. Now, interestingly enough, Delaware County, we don't own any roads, so we can't implement these ourselves. So it takes partnership, it takes collaboration and facilitation. That's where we see our role, is working with our municipalities, working with PennDOT, working with different, nonprofit groups to really try to collaborate and make safety that number one priority when we're looking at any kind of transportation network. And that we can also help with the data gathering, the data sharing, the data analysis. And again, traffic safety is foundational. It's really where we kind of start. And so far, municipalities can also adopt our plan, and that allows them first to acknowledge, the safety issues, but also allows them to go after funding, right? They can do their own plan. There's two different ways you can do it. You can do your own plan, but that does take time and money, or you can adopt the county's plan, and you can go after that funding. So we're very happy that 17 municipalities so far have adopted the county plan for safety. And we're still in conversations with a lot of them. We know that more are going to be signing on to it any day now. So really excited for that, but it really is something that really kind of grounds us, because we don't want to see our residents, our visitors, die on our roadways. If you want to learn more, there is another QR code and a link to the Vision Zero Delco plan if you want to get a little bit more information on what that means. And then finally, I wanted to just bring up our Greenways grants, which Councilman Schaefer had mentioned before. We've had 4 rounds. We haven't had funding in the past several rounds. We've had 4 rounds so far in this program. So 118 projects have been awarded a Greenway grant. And this map just shows the locations of where all of those grants were awarded to. So pretty much every municipality in Delaware County has received some funding except for one, but they never applied, so they didn't get it. Overall, $20 million has been awarded in this program. And to date, we've given out about a little over $11 million to all these projects across the county. And we've got about $9 million more to go to give out. So we're really kind of reaching the point where they've had time. It takes a long time to do some of these plans. There are different categories. So there's enhanced grants, which work on park improvements. There's connect grants, which are trail projects. There's mini pros, or the parks, recreation, open space plans that a lot of our smaller municipalities received funding for that because they haven't had a plan in the past. So that's really going to show dividends, for a long time, because now they're thinking about park planning, trail planning. I'm missing another one. Oh, open space, sorry, important one. The other one was open space, so preserving open space. There was funding that went to preserving open space as well. And now that there's been some time going, we're starting to see those project completions coming in. We're getting more and more of them every day. So very excited to see the work that's happening across the county. And I wanted to just show a few. We are going to try and do a better job of categorizing and sharing this information, but just wanted to mention a few that have been completed so far. And we know that there's going to be a lot more coming this year. I think once spring comes and plantings are able to happen, I think we're going to see a flurry of projects get completed. But this is the Second Ward Playground, which was one of our enhanced grants with new playground equipment. And one thing I would like to also highlight is the green stormwater infrastructure that we've seen put into place on a lot of these projects. It wasn't necessarily thought of as like the goal, but we've seen a lot of people incorporate them. So it's just been really great to see how people have utilized these funding, and not just for recreation, but also for stormwater management, which is something that we're working on actively too in another part of the planning department. The Leaper Smedley trail improvements, this was one of our Connect grants. They did trail widening, repairs, and resurfacing for a portion of their trail in Nether Providence Township. And then the next is Britton Run, which is one of the open space grants. So this allowed them to acquire 79 acres of Revolutionary War battleground. It's a really great space if you haven't been out there, but and now it's open to the public. So, and then I also wanted to mention the Derby Creek Connectivity Project in Gillespie Park, which is a really great pedestrian bridge that was built there in phase 1, and then they also have a phase 2, which they're currently working on for a second bridge. So really great projects that people are gonna take their kids there. They're gonna be the memories that their kids have of growing up is going to these places and enjoying these spaces. So I just wanted to give a shout out for that program. It would be great if we had more funding in the future, but people have really utilized that program really, really well. And we're gonna continue to see that going forward. So with all of that, just want to thank you. This last QR code is to sign up for our planning department newsletter. We've resurrected that, working on getting really good information, sharing out all of this kind of content in there in the future. And we also do have a LinkedIn page. I forgot to put that on here, but if you go to our planning department website, you can find that, or just look in LinkedIn for Delaware County Planning Department. I think I'm pretty much out of time, so ran through a lot of that quickly, but yeah, happy to answer any questions.
Yeah.
Okay, do you have a quick question?
We can
take it. Let's take this one question. Go ahead.
Wait for the mic.
Yep, here's the mic's coming to you. The mic's right behind you. Yep.
So yeah, I wish it was a lot louder. I wish you were using this when you're up. It's
I'm
really
sorry, I
strange
didn't know
to
that.
hear. But
I
don't know if you mentioned the connector from Air Park to 291 in Chester. Did you mention that?
I did not. The city of Chester.
Okay, because there's a public meeting for that as well. on February 23rd at Chester City Hall.
Yeah, and that's a City of Chester project in Delaware County, but we're not the ones leading it, so yes.
Perfect.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you.
When we're switching to mic, I just wanted to mention, all of these presentations will be posted on cavtrail.com. So if you miss something, don't worry.
Okay, and everyone can hear me well, right? Back row, you guys can hear me well? Okay, so maybe we'll try this mic. Maybe it's just a little bit louder. Okay, so up next, we have Bob Thomas. Everyone here knows him. He's a partner for Campbell, Thomas and Company.
Yeah, just hold it close to you, and the pointer is right here.
There you go.
Okay, and then
Press
just stand.
which button?
Which one?
It's this button right
there.
there. There we go.
Yep,
That works.
So you're good.
All right,
And
you
just
can
stand
hear
over
me?
here because we want that mic too.
Very well. Well, good morning, everyone. You know that Tinicum Township. Hello, can you hear me now? Good. You know that Tinicum Township is unique in that until I-95 built, you've seen Tinicum Island Road. Where the heck's Tinicum Island? Tinicum Island. It's the whole township. It's completely surrounded by water, by the Delaware River, Darby Creek, and then the Bow Creek, which was filled in to build the airport. So it's a unique community with waterfront all the way around. It has a small population, about 4,000. Much of the township in the eastern end is taken up by the turnpike, not the turnpike, the airport, but also by the John Heinz National Wildlife Refuge. And in coming and doing this plan, one of the big issues is I remember the township before 95. I used to take the trolley to John Heinz. It went all the way down to 94th Street. And, going to family events at Walbers in Delaware, it was a very different place, and yet very much the same now with people that care about it and are really looking to, actually, how do they bring more people into the township? So they were awarded through the Delco Greenways Grant Program a mini park recreation and open space plan, which of course included trails and greenways and whatnot. And what I'll focus on is just the trail part when we get into that. So let's see, advance this one.
No, I'll advance.
Okay,
Yep,
next.
there we are.
All right, so lots of goals. I'll be glad to talk to anybody about this afterwards. I want to stay on schedule. But basically, providing parks and recreation, accessibility, possible use of park sites, the waterfront, really optimizing the waterfront, and then which is extensive, and then good maintenance and operation, and then attracting people to live, work, and play. When we ask people, what are you looking for? One person said, you know what our big problem is? We couldn't get enough kids to field the ball league last year. And what's not attracting people here? And we felt that a large part of this plan was looking at taking advantage of the assets they have, connecting them, and also enhancing and making people aware of them and improving them. Next. So here you see the West End, the Essington end, let's see, press this. Good. Yeah, so there's I-95, 291, there's 420. And the thing about this, which is so special, so many communities that are along the Delaware River have an expressway right along the river. Philadelphia, as an example. Well, their expressway is way back, right? The railroad is way back, that this whole town comes right out to the river. And it's quiet. And there's already some really fantastic bike routes to get you into Heinz in Philadelphia that need some improvements. So here you see also Governor Prince Park, where the Swedes, had their first settlement. You see the Lazaretto, which the township saved and is now their township building, and also houses a number of really good nonprofits, et cetera, et cetera. Next, please. So we started a year ago and finished up in December with meetings, the things that I think most people here are familiar with in this type of process, ending up with a site analysis. Next. Okay, so we went out and looked at, there actually was no map of all their parks and recreation facilities, so we went out and looked at them and did it.
and found where they were along the river, in the community. There were other things like this road here, Tinicum Island Road, has been bulldozed for an extension of the airport. In redoing the road here, they made sure that not only did they get a road, they got a complete bike side path along here, major wetlands restoration, really nice all through here. People here that backed up to just junk, back up to thousands of new trees. You have to see it. The other thing is taking a look at how to connect these things. They said, gee, here's Manor Park, and the ball fields are here, the library's here, the Boy Scout cabin's here. That this could become part of a big walking, biking route through the township. Also, this riverfront, Tinicum Island Road, there's almost no traffic. And it's all riverfront view for 3 miles, all the way to Fort Mifflin at the boundary with Philadelphia. So this is something, people go there now. You know, the first animals that you find in a site like this are fishermen. They know where all the spots are. They jump over the junk. They've been out there, God, for 10,000 years, actually. But that's there. The township also includes Tinicum Island, Little Tinicum Island. And there are people who camp out there, which is legal. It's actually part of Valley Forge State Park. That's the state park, there's state forest in which the Bureau of Forestry lumps all the loose ends of the forest system. But the other thing they've looked at is, you know, at least being able to go along and connect things next to 95. This is the railroad that runs along the river here, which is now out of operation. There's Tinicum Island Road is here, and it's just great. People stop. There are places you can picnic on the fly and whatnot. But this also goes somewhere, and I'll show you very soon. Next. So here's Essington. This is Leicester. The Westinghouse plant there, really, it was a planned village for workers of the Westinghouse plant. 291. There's also the freight railroad that comes through here, Conrail Shared Assets. There's also the trolley bed of the old Chester Short Line, which we studied some years ago with the township for the Tinicum Fort Mifflin Trail. And that offers a direct connection. It's actually a way to sneak underneath I-95 and underneath 291. It's there today. You can enjoy it. So you just have to know how to get there. And here you see Tinicum Island Road. This is the new bike path that goes to here. And this is the whole area. This is the boundary with Philadelphia is right here. You look at the airport and say, how did they ever come up with that cockamamie boundary? Well, that's the bed of Bow Creek. That was the boundary. And Bow Creek was a distributary of Darby Creek. So water flows down the Cobbs of Darby to here. Most of it goes out Darby Creek. Some of it went out other creeks like Longhook Creek and Bow Creek out here to the Delaware. But you can get from Eastwick and whatnot here and come down Fort Mifflin Road to Fort Mifflin, which is right here, and continue along this road all the way and right into 2nd Street, which has almost no traffic. It's just a quiet residential street right into the center of town and Governor Prince Park. I'll show that in more detail in a moment. So that's a real resource that we identified, which was not an existing park. All right, next, please.
What's that red dot again?
Go back.
In the middle of the river. What does that signify?
The red dot.
The red dotted line.
Oh, that's the township boundary.
Oh, that's what you find.
Yeah. We'll go back. This is Delaware River. So it's the state line between Pennsylvania and New Jersey, and it's also the township line. And here's the township line here.
Okay.
Goes up all the other communities. Tinicum Township is also somewhat unusual. Is a lot of townships like Upper Darby. When you look at a map, and it looks like leftover Swiss cheese. Because there are pieces of Upper Darby that aren't even connected to the rest of it anymore. All the boroughs were chopped out 100, 120 years ago. That never happened here. The entire township is still intact. It was in existence for hundreds of years.
And is there work in your plan for John Heinz to have that trail?
Yes, I'll get to that in just a moment. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, because Heinz is in both Delaware and Philadelphia counties. So we also obviously took the look at there's been a lot of work done on the Delaware County Greenway Plan. So here you have this is East Coast Greenway. It's also the September 11th National Memorial Trail, Washington Rochambeau Revolutionary Route. This is Heinz. the Delaware County portion, and then there's more of Heights here in Philly. And these trails go through. The visitor center is here. You walk out, and in a short amount of time, you're at Delco, and you come out to 420 and the fishing docks and all that. So this is the Greenway plan, and this is the trail plan. And here's again the various trails. Next. Prior to our work, another firm, another consultant had worked with the township looking at the alternatives to get into Tinicum. We had done that 15 years ago. They did an update. And here you see the East Coast Greenway coming through from Philly. This is all Philadelphia here in Heights. It's your question. And the trails, these come together. This makes a nice loop around the impoundment, and then the trail goes here. There's a walking trail along here, which was an old road. Back in the 60s, when I got to know Heights, you could walk on this. It was part of the Tinicum Wildlife Refuge. And there was no 295, so this was actually Jansen Avenue, came right out into the community. And people talk, older people at our meetings talk, yeah, we should just walk out and go fishing. Now you got to walk across 95. And for, it's really not, pedestrians were forgotten. And to have 4,000 people living here who have to drive across 95 to get to Heights in their own township is unspeakable. But this mistake was made all over the place. And now all of us are working to correct that in a really nice way. Still have automobile access, but also have complete access for pedestrians, bicycles, disabled, everybody. Okay, so this recent study, looked at, again, linking these parks, having a possible bridge over 95. In Radnor Township, through Representative Borowski, the township just got a grant within the last week or two when they were announced the Multimodal Transportation Fund, 1.7 million added to the money that's already there. The township's going after the last few grants to extend the Valley Forge to Heights Refuge Trail through the east end of the township to the point where there'll be a bridge in the coming years over 495. What's it? 476. I'm sorry. Yes, Blue Route 476. And unfortunately, when 476 was built, PennDOT asked the community, did they want a tunnel under the bridge at the time it was being built? And the people who didn't want the trail stopped that. But it's taken a long time to make it up, but that's going to happen. But that's important because that comes obviously the end of that trail is in Heights and then connects with all these trails in Tinicum. Other things we looked at is you saw a photo going along this wall to connect other parks. What you see here is the, coming up here, that's the old trolley bed, which then gets you to the wormhole underneath, and all these trails connect. We've also looked at in the study, not just the people who live here, but the people who work here. There's a lot of employment here. And if you work at the center here, if you could walk out and there's just a short bridge over the canal here, you're on the trails in Tinicum. Imagine being able in 8 minutes to leave your desk and be fishing at lunchtime or just sitting out along the canal. And there are already bathrooms over there, which are pretty decent. It's all looking at all that. This was East Coast Greenway alternatives that were analyzed. This route here, coming here, going to the wormhole. And we'll show one more, which you can do today. Next, please. Yeah, just an enlargement. So this is the railroad. And here's the trolley bed. And the trolley bed goes underneath. Once you get into Heights, actually, this is part of Heights. But once you get underneath 291, the trolley bed is actually a rail trail. And we have a wonderful collection in our office of before and afters. There's a photo taken of me in high school next to the trolley. And we have the exact same photo taken me now, at my age, standing on the trail in Heights. And you can see some of the same trees that have gotten bigger. I've gotten older. Right. So anyway, here's this Tinicum Island Road, which was rebuilt. The trail comes up and suddenly ends. And it's this, what would I say? Mentality of bicyclists can't take care of themselves. So at the end of this, what you want to do is get here and ride in the shoulders, which are great. But they put very heavy, like 4-inch gravel to make sure you had to get off your bike. And walking over that gravel is painful. So, we looked at, some options. There's some options we looked at of doing that, having a crossing, whatever. until this gets completed. Next, please. Yeah. So here are the circuit trails that exist now. This is the East Coast Greenway route. This is a proposal to come here. That's the proposed, one of the options of going here and connecting all these parks, going here, going under, or having a bridge, whatever, and then getting in the heights, or the green is the existing. Right now, when you get here, when you come out of this parking lot, people do run across here. It's not vision 0, it's probably about vision 5 or 6, because it's really, it's not good. But because this is a major fishing spot, and so there is work going on to not just tell people, when you tell people to go all the way up here, across here, and then come back again, how many do it? Okay. So there's work to fix this situation. That's important. Next, please. Yeah, and we did this map, the canoe and kayak routes. This is not stuff that we thought up. Ed Gertler, about 30 years ago, published the comprehensive book on canoeing Pennsylvania. And it covers the eastern half of the state, watershed by watershed, creek by creek. And he tells you where all the inputs are. So here's Darby Creek, right? We're not too far up here. So there's a dock at Heights, and people go through here. I've canoed there. Down here, there's a Wharton Homestead, which of course was 420, was an old road. One time it had a trolley line. Long before that, it had stagecoaches. Long before that, there was a ferry here for a long time. In fact, for a long time, if you were in Western Essington, you had to take a trolley or a train to get across Darby Creek. There was no highway. You had to go up this road and through these communities. So that's been there. But then there's also the Ridley Township Marina. It's already a fantastic example. I mean, boats are there. There's a diner type restaurant. It's really a good resource. And then, of course, you come out. All the things, the Corinthian Yacht Club, private clubs here, West End Boat Club, Governor Prince Park, the Golden Point Marina, and then, of course, Fort Mifflin. There is a dock. It's gotten silted in. But I did a boat trip not that long ago, maybe in the last 10 years. The Patriot Harbor Lines, which was running tours on the Schuylkill in the summer, had a trip where they went from Bartram's Garden to Fort Mifflin by boat and then around to Penn's Landing. And if you're out in the Delaware River, be careful. Now, the other thing, Fort Mifflin is right. It's the last piece in Philadelphia. It's under the province of the Parks and Rec Department. And of course, it has a very strong support organization. They're very interested in this. I was on a call with the director yesterday about trails. And but from what we understand is that's where there's going to be a cruise port opening in, we're told, 2 months from now in April. So, and the township would like more details on that as well, but that could help justify doing some of this work. One more, please. Right, so we always look at public transit, and here's Tinicum Township. And then the next slide, we're near the end, just overlays the septic lines. Here's the Route 108, which takes you to this waterfront. Here's the Route 37. There's no longer a bus line up here, but this is the September 11th National Memorial Trail official route, some of which is built, some of which is proposed, and they're en route, temporary routes, but this is the East Coast Greenway. And yeah, next slide. This is that new section of Tinicum Island Road. You saw it where it ended, but this is what it looks like, a long part of it. And then you can see also in places it gets away from the road, and you look at these wetlands. There are literally several thousand trees that were planted in here and other plants. It's just wonderful. But I'll show you what's even better. Next slide. This one. Okay. So that route is over here. Okay. If you're at the way that I get now to the meetings I did here with the township and citizens here was not to ride on Route 291. What I could do is I took the train down to the Eastwick Station, which is right here, and there are bike lanes on Bartram Avenue, which come down. And instead of getting on 291, you go over here and get on Tinicum Island Road. And now there's a bike path that goes all the way here and down here to 2nd Street here. And then you can go in on 2nd Street. This is all quiet residential. There's a really good, now it's a Vietnamese diner. The old Essington Diner is a great Vietnamese place. So you have the ability to do that already. This is the last thing I'm going to show you is how's the Schuylkill River Trail going to get all the way down to the mouth of the Schuylkill and to Fort Mifflin and to Tinicum Township in Delaware County. Well, I learned recently this is a right-of-way. Right now that it comes from Reading to Norristown to Philly, and with the bridge opening here in May, it'll come down here to Bartram's all the way to 61st Street. That's all done. And there's a redevelopment authority right-of-way here, which was kept for this. This is a railroad line, not in use down to here, which then you see down all along here. So there's actually been a proposal to do a rail with trail. PIDC talked about that years ago. SEPTA's had some discussions. I've even seen some drawings. And the idea is that in getting along the river here, you could acquire this, move all the junk, literally mountains of junk, 60 feet high. It was done for the Delaware River Trail 4 years ago up in Bridesburg. It can be done. But that would bring you down Schuylkill River Trail, down here to Fort Mifflin into the trail, this riverfront in Tinicum, right here back. And then this is completed from 420 down to the Darby Creek, and then this is getting done. So that's really going to be big. And this is a trail which is 9/11, East Coast Greenway, local trail, Schuylkill River Trail. So that's why a lot of this would be done because of the circuit and the planning of major trails. When you overlay that much potential use and that much economic benefit, it makes it easier to get the funding. I think that's the last thing I wanted to show.
It looks like the East Coast Greenway connector, right? That goes from
here.
The red one. That would be a way to connect.
Yeah, well, there's a real question if this happens. Would the East Coast Greenway? It's a Solomonic choice. You want to have a route through John Heights. It's already. I mean, I probably 3 or 4 times a year take the train out here, walk down through these parks, cross here, get ice cream, and then get on the trail, go all the way through, and picnic, and watch the birds, and then we get back on at Eastwood. And we're home in 10 minutes, and so this is really important for that. The other thing, though, is the refuge is closed after certain hours, even hours that people are commuting home from work. I left the office at 7 last night, right, and rode home. So this would offer a 24-hour route, and that'll have to be worked out. Anyway.
Okay. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Bob. That was great. So knowledgeable always. And Bob will be around during our break, so definitely go. I know a lot of people have questions. Okay, up next is a big friend of our department, Bill Kaplan. He's the acting director for the Department of Leisure Services in Upper Darby Township.
Yeah. All right. I'm just trying to get the.
All right.
Where is it? Okay.
Wait to get set up.
Yeah, hold on.
So again, my name is Bill Kaplan. I am the acting director of Leisure Services. It's Parks and Recs, and I'm going to be given a very broad eagle's eye view of what's happening in Upper Darby. And I just want to say that the trail development in Upper Darby started years ago, but it's really been kicked off by the Friends of Upper Darby Trails in the last couple of years. And under the 2 previous administrators, I think we've achieved a lot more than what has been going on in the past decades. And so we'll hear I'll talk a little bit about the Naylor's Run Trail. And you heard a little bit also about the Darby Creek Trail. So we have 2 trail systems in Upper Darby, but I'm going to focus on the Naylor's Run Trail. And I really want to emphasize, and I'll talk about specs and some of the new additions, but I really want to emphasize the role of the Naylor's Run Trail in Upper Darby and what that role is. And it's really a keystone trail. So yes, there is recreation. People go on the trails to get outside. We are probably the most densely populated township and area in the county and in the state. So our trails and our parks are crucial for people to experience some open elbow room. But really what I want to emphasize also is the connectivity part. Can I get the,
Oh, sure.
thank you. And just press.
Just press this one right
This one right there, thank you. So really want to emphasize the connectivity part, because what is significant about the Upper Darby Naylor's Run Trail is its economic development aspects. So we connect different neighborhoods in Upper Darby, like Stonehurst and Bywood, going north all the way to Drexel Hill, and then into, and we'll talk a little bit about this, into Haverford. But then we also can go towards Philadelphia and connect to the Cobb's Creek Trail as well, to really bring our residents, not just within their communities, but to the greater trail system and the greater park system. So really, what does that mean? That's about community and economic development. And I really appreciated Bob's point about the connectivity and the significance of it. So I just really wanted to talk a little bit. I may need to go over here just a second. So the Naylor's Run Trail here, if I got this right, with Cobb's Creek Park, Cobb's Creek Trail, let's just start it here. And then it goes further up into Upper Darby, through Naylor's Run, and then we're trying to either meet up with Haverford at Township Line, or it's going to be at Westchester Pike. So this area here is still under question for a lot of different reasons, a lot of technical reasons and crossings. But here I just really wanted to emphasize that what we are connecting is this part of Upper Darby, Stonehurst and Bywood, with the rest of Upper Darby and Drexel Hill. That is incredibly crucial. Next. So I'm going to just give you a brief overview of two of the additions or two of the major projects that we're working on. And one is the Marshall Road. So you've heard a lot about the Vision Zero. You heard a lot about our Safe Streets initiative. And that's because we have some major complicated crossings going on in Upper Darby Township. And what I wanted to emphasize here in this part of Marshall Road, let's see, it's not.
Oh, sorry. You know what? It might not be. Oh, yeah, it should be.
Does that work? Okay, sorry.
Sorry.
So when Naylor's Run Trail, is that right? That's
No,
okay.
it's not
Yeah,
working.
sorry. So when Naylor's Run Trail leaves Cobb's Creek Trail and it goes towards, let's say, north into Haverford, we cross Marshall Road. And just to give you some picture, we're talking hundreds of children and people crossing from Stonehurst Bywood to Marshall Road, crossing over to Marshall Road, even to get into Beverly Hills Middle School. This one right here. Excellent. Thank you. The Friends of Upper Darby Trail helps us out in many, many different ways. So here's Naylor's Run, and Naylor's Run Trail, and it crosses Marshall Road. So next slide. So what I'm looking at is a bridge crossing. Next slide. But of course, it's not going to be as pretty or as dynamic as this. What we're looking at is a basic pedestrian bridge crossing that will connect these neighborhoods in Stonehurst Bywood to the rest of Upper Darby. Next slide. So many of you, and just for brevity now, already probably know that trail development and bridge development isn't the most exciting thing around. And I say that, sorry, there are architects here, there are engineers here. I have numerous specs, if anybody's interested, that I am pouring over. I really wanted to emphasize here on these projects in Upper Darby and everywhere else, there is an immense amount of logistical and technical thinking that goes into all these projects, like the Marshall Road Bridge. For example, we have partnered with PEC, Pennsylvania Environmental Council, and they really were forward thinking after we received the funding from DVRPC so that we could prepare these plans for future funding on the federal level. And so these are the plans, these are the kinds of designs that really move these projects forward. And community input is just as important. It's really necessary for the advocacy. But just to give a little shout out to the engineers, to PEC, to all the specs and the stats, all these designs. If you are interested in trail development, get into an engineering design and you will get a very good idea of what's possible. So I have a vision in my head about how I want this bridge to look, but according to the engineering specs, according to the environmental impact, according to all these other aspects, I'm very limited. So when we go and do community engagement, we have to convey this message to people that this bridge can't look maybe the way that we want it. There's a lot of constraints. Anyway, it's just something that I've learned. So I want to give a shout out to Pinoni, who's the engineer. I want to give a shout out to DVRPC and to PEC for moving this forward. I'll have questions in 1 minute. Yep, thank you. Move. So the other section of the Naylor's Run Trail that we are completing is what we call Section 5A. It's not the most interesting title, so hopefully we'll have another project to name this section. So what's important about 5A? That bridge that will cross over to Marshall Road then goes into one of our parks, Beverly Hills Recreation Area, or as many people know as Marshall Field. And then it will go through this area here that's right along Beverly Hills, right here. Thank you. So the trail will come here or go through the park, and this section right here to Garrett Road is going to be completed in the next couple of weeks. We had a little delay because of the snow and the weather. And so next, yep. So right now, we've laid the asphalt, we're putting in the benches, we're putting in the lights. That is a connector that is going to actually connect the Marshall Road bridge and this area all the way to Garrett Road. And if you know Upper Darby, Garrett Road is another very busy street where, again, hundreds, and this is no exaggeration, of children move through that area daily during the school season. And so I just really wanted to present to everyone here, trail development is happening in Upper Darby Township. We are partnering with PEC. We are getting funding from DVRPC. Pinoni Engineering's company is really helping us move this forward. The Friends of Upper Darby Trails, who will be on the panel, will talk about maintenance. That is a huge challenge for us as well. Next slide. So just to end with, there we go. Just to end with that we are back in the game. We have been in the game, but Upper Darby Township is partnering with Haverford, is really under the guidance of PEC, getting this funding from DCNR, which I should have mentioned also has funded that section of 5A that will really connect our neighborhoods. And we are just very open to have people come into Upper Darby as we develop these trails. Thank you.
Just so we stay with our schedule and our time, well, first of all, I want to mention that we have our township manager here, Dave Berman. He's a big fan of the trails and has written some of the grants that got us help on Darby Creek Trail. So right now, we're just going to have a few minute break. We're going to make it 12 minutes because I really want to keep with our schedule. Feel free to jump on anyone who you didn't get an opportunity to take a question to. I know you're anxious to ask Bill Kaplan something. And then I will make an announcement for us to get back in our seats to listen to the panel. So talk and enjoy and get some coffee. Up next, we're doing something a little different this year. We've never tried this before. We thought it was a good idea. We had some feedback I believe this has been tried at other Trail Summit meetings. Yes, right. So we're copying this. So this is going to be a panel discussion for trail maintenance. So if everyone gets in your seat, we can start. Keep it on time, and then we will have time after this and two presentations for you guys to all chit chat some more. Okay. So this is who's on our panel. I'll just ask the person when I introduce them to raise their hand. Mike Penzone, he's the maintenance director for the Friends of the Chester Creek Branch. Steve Lockard, he's Friends of Upper Darby Trails. Matt Gracie, board member, Friends of Smedley. Brian Barrett, director of Parks and Rec, Haverford Township. And Jordan Linhart is the program manager of Trails and Outdoor Recreation, and she will also be the moderator. So I'm going to hand the microphone over to her, and we are ready to start.
Good morning. Thank you all for being here so much. I had the absolute pleasure of not making a PowerPoint. Oh, yeah, can you hear me? A little closer? Oh, sorry, I'm like spitting in it. I have the pleasure of not having to make a PowerPoint, so thank you. What else? We're gonna go ahead and get started. I am going to be asking questions to these gentlemen who provide trail maintenance all throughout Delco and everywhere else, probably. So for the first question, we're going to go ahead and just kick it off with where you do your most trail work. How many miles of trail maintenance do you do? And yeah, what is the hardest part of your trail maintenance?
Sure, Steve Lockard, Upper Darby. We have two trail systems, the Naylor's Run Trail and the Darby Creek Trail. Darby Creek is, I guess, about 3.5 miles in Upper Darby. Naylor's Run Trail, less than that.
Matt Gracie, Springfield Smedley Trails. We have about 10 miles that we maintain from 320 and 420 in Springfield all the way to Smedley, Baltimore Pike. The challenges are the overgrowth that we get throughout the year.
Hello, Mike Penzone, Friends of Chester Creek Trail. We have about 3 miles that we maintain, and right now it's just making sure that stormwater management is kept clear. I know that's a big thing on our trail, is making sure that our stormwater management devices are working properly to steer stormwater away from our trails.
And in Haverford Township, we have approximately 12 miles. A lot of those trails are out natural trails up behind here at the community center, like 5 miles in there. And then we have the Pensy Trail, the Darby Creek Trail. And for us, it's a lot of grass cutting, beating back invasives, some tree plantings, and then with the snow, residents asking, can we clear the trails? And we struggle to clear the parking lots and the sidewalks. So the trails are the last thing to get touched.
I'm just going to hop back and forth.
I suggest you distinguish between paved trails and natural trails.
Yes, that is something we will be discussing. So one of the things that I think is really important is who is doing your trail maintenance? Is it volunteers? Is it maybe municipalities, staff? How is it getting done and by whom?
In Haverford Township, it's a combination. It's our park maintenance team. We also have a conservation team that's been working on invasives, planting trees, stream bank restorations. And also we've started in the last couple of years a adopted trail program. So volunteers, local community organizations have been helping us with that too.
Thank you. Our trail is paved, and it's also a county park. So we have a partnership with Delaware County Parks, who helps us with a lot of the heavy lifting of the maintenance of the trail. However, we do engage with community organizations for general maintenance, and that's where we come. Where I mentioned stormwater. Stormwater management is usually through our volunteer base that we have. We also tried a Adopt a Trail program. It didn't really get off the ground, but we're hopeful that we still continue with our community engagement and getting scout troops are probably our biggest contributor right now. Eagle Scout projects are great help for our trail.
The Friends of Smedley group does the scheduling of maintenance. We try to do maintenance at least twice a year. April and August, we can cover most of the overgrowth. We also have a good community with a Facebook group, the Smedley Park Trail Team. There's 400 members. It's a lot of mountain bikers. Springfield Smedley is not paved. The mountain bikers have an invested interest in the trail, so we can usually reach out for the April and August trail trimmings and get a group of volunteers. The other thing is down trees. We have lots of down trees, which are almost always handled by the mountain bikers. When a big storm comes through like we had in June and there was trees and trees down, we organized that on the Smedley Park Trail Team to make sure that weren't going out to the scene trees with all of our equipment and they were already cut.
If we could break it down into 3 different levels, basic level, skilled, and maybe a professional level. We have a number of things done by basic level, tree tenders, watershed stewards, do some skilled stuff. There is also some professional stuff done. We have bigger trees come down. We ask Public Works in Upper Darby to come out and do that. There's a hotline you can call, the mayor's hotline. Public Works will come out, inspect what's necessary to be done, and probably within the next day or 2, they'll come out and do that. You're probably aware that the Darby Creek Valley Association will come out and do biannual cleanups along the creek, maybe 40 in the spring, and maybe another 5, 6, 8 in the fall. The skilled stuff, I think, is mainly watershed stewards, tree tenders, and a few other people. Usually that's not done by the township. We don't have any other skilled people that can do that kind of work.
Thank you. Great resource, Eagle Scouts. I didn't even think about tapping that one. So another thing that I think all of us are really interested in is, what are some of the challenges that you guys face while you're doing this maintenance? Is it correct asphalt? And if you'd like, please go into the difference between maintenance on asphalt trails, paved trails versus natural surface trails as well.
Sure. In regard to asphalt trails, we try not to do any planting within 10 feet of any trails. Obviously, tree roots are going to cause a problem down the road. Shrubs can go up a little closer if necessary. Usually it's the township that's going to do that planting, but we've always recommended certain things that would be done. We don't have that many trails that we maintain that are unasphalted. I think that might cover it.
Yeah, and since all of our trails are dirt, the main issue that we have is this water remediation. And things that we fix this year and fix well, the following year there'll be something else that crops up. Last few years we've had some really heavy deluge rains that just opened up new paths of water, which just exposes roots and creates havoc on the trail. So the constant upkeep of that and trying to identify where the water is coming from and come up with remediation to handle that is probably our biggest challenge.
I think our biggest challenge is there is still a considerable amount of work, maintenance work that we do along our trail that is done strictly by board members. So there is some outreach going on to try and pass along that to some more community groups and other outside resources to do that. But our trail has a big bonus in that the county does maintain certain portions of the trail, and it's usually the larger heavy lift projects that they have to do, and that's like asphalt maintenance, swale, greater swale maintenance. The easier stuff to clean out is done by us, but actually the rock and everything else that goes into some of these stormwater devices are maintained by the county. So that's a bonus for us, but just the challenge is finding people to give us a hand in maintaining the trail.
And on our natural trails, it's mostly vegetation, invasives, the growth that happens each year, beating that back just so the trails are clear. As some of you may know, we have a disc golf course out here that's among our trails. So the disc golf people have been very helpful clearing the ways of their fairways and the trail accesses to their fairways. So that's been helpful. As far as the paved trails, we opened the Pensy Trail with the bridge in 2024. At the end of 2024, we opened that. The challenge for us is we created a lot more areas that need to be mowed. So what we're trying to do is we're still waiting on some stabilization issues and getting our final closeouts for the Pensy Trail, but we want to try to put in vegetation that doesn't need to be mowed every couple weeks or every week. And what happens is when you open these trails, the volume of people on there, so you have 10,000 eyes telling you, the grass is growing a little too high. Can you get out here and cut it? So with the Pensy Trail, we put together a plan for the new portion of it to do, because there's some steep slopes too. So the grass would be very difficult to cut on those slopes. To try to get grasses that grow to a certain height and then stop. We're also going to put some hedgerows in, which will eliminate a lot of grass growth. And then there will be some tree plantings because we had to take out some trees to put the trail in and put the stormwater management portion of the trail in. So we'll be looking at planting some trees along that. And then along the Darby Creek Trail, a lot of invasives, a lot of trees have been impacted by the invasives. So we've done, I think, about 500 trees have been planted along Darby Creek Trail in the last 2 years. And we're working on an invasive management plan that we're working with both contractors, volunteers, and some of our park maintenance group.
All right, so another question that I'm sure all of you have, and all of you are probably familiar with volunteer programs when it comes to trail maintenance. I want to know what you guys have in terms of a volunteer program. Do you use volunteers while you're maintaining your trail systems? And how do you keep them engaged? How do you manage them?
Okay, as I mentioned earlier, we have an Adopt a Trail program, so that's working with volunteers that have adopted portions of different trails throughout the township. Some of the natural trails here were adopted by our local running group. The Pensy Trail was adopted by a local contractor, Noah Painting. So we work with them and we help them by giving them some direction initially, help them with tools if that's necessary. But during COVID, when we had to sort of not do all the parks and recreation things that we did with gathering people and coming to the community center, we started a volunteer program here doing some trail work, invasive work, and planting trees. And that program has developed a constituency that we've built on, and we send out a newsletter once a month about volunteer opportunities. We have work days every Tuesday when the weather is favorable, doing work throughout the township. And then we have major planting days that we organize, and we contact the volunteers, we contact local scouting groups, local organizations, tree tenders, those types of groups. So.
Yeah, we also have like a stepped approach, sort of like Upper Darby does, in that we have the county who generally handles a lot of the heavier duty maintenance, and we do have contractors that come in. I know Hollywood Landscaping has been a tremendous help for us, especially in areas of the trail that are almost dedicated park areas. If you've ever been on the trail, Mount Alverno is that area where we have a lot of park benches, and that's where we have just an area where people can sit and enjoy the trail. But we do rely on volunteer help, and again, we do have trail days. We rely on we have social media that generally gets the word out if we're looking for that. But we do have, I do have a list of people who want to help out on the trail and give back. And we just recently had one in November where we went out and did about 3 or 4 hours of maintenance out on the trail, and we'll look to do it again in the spring. So we're trying to get that ball rolling, making sure we have scheduled maintenance days and getting the word out. You know, the best thing is that we found is social media works best.
Yeah, we've started an Adopt a Trail program. It's in its infancy. We're trying to get stewards of the trail that will be able to be there for when the overgrowth is heavy. So like if you commit to the trail or a section of the trail, we're trying to get that involvement so people will be out in April and August, because otherwise if you miss those dates, then it affects the whole trail and someone else has to clean it up. So we're trying to work to get people involved with that. Again, the Facebook group, social media is a big one for us. We organize our April and August trail trimmings with that group. We also have activity with the Eagle Scouts. They're doing various projects, whether it's benches or a bike maintenance stand or even water remediation. They're involved, and they constantly come to us with their Eagle Scout projects. And recently, the Smedley Trail is a hub for the Delco Revolution mountain bike youth group. And they've started working with us now on projects on the trail. They've been doing upkeep of the trail in terms of trimming, but now they're actually working on projects with water remediation and whatnot. So.
We don't have an Adopt a Trails group, but we have a trails group that does go out and do cutting of vines, etc. We also have recruited scout groups to put in kiosks along the way for information. We have a very strong tree tenders group, and anytime we need something done, we go to them, and they're willing to come out and do everything. They've done live staking along the trail. They've done cutting of vines. Any kind of maintenance that needs to be done that's not too much for a 65-year-old, we're able to handle.
Wonderful. All right, so I have one more quick question before we go to the audience questions, and you guys can just nod your head yes or no. Do you still get excited for new trail even though you know you have to maintain it later? Do you?
Not only are we excited, we anticipate every trail. We're apprehensive about the work that's coming in. We're beating down the door to find out more information about what's coming along. Yes, we're certainly very excited about anything coming along.
You can say sure.
Yeah, we're always excited. I mean, the trail maintenance to me is exercise, so I like doing it, and I like when I'm riding my mountain bike not to be hit in the face by weeds and whatnot. So,
yes, very excited. Primarily because it's, for our group, it's been a long time coming, and we look forward to it. And the way I see it is, more green space where people can enjoy is just a win for us all.
Yeah, we're always excited about new trails, but obviously maintaining them is a challenge. But I think there's a really good sense of volunteerism in Haverford Township. And because so many people use the trails, they're engaged, they're invested. So I think the combination of township resources and volunteer resources will continue to use.
All right, so open to audience questions now. Go ahead.
I have a question. It seems like only one of you on the panel are really utilizing a public works group. I was curious if you could speak more to why trails aren't covered under public works to a certain extent. I think we're especially seeing an issue now with all the snow on the ground. Routes that are typically used as transportation for a lot of folks are now seen as forgotten about and just something that's more of a recreation and a hobby.
If I can paraphrase, why doesn't Public Works do it all?
Well, I'll give you an example in Upper Darby. There are basically just 15 guys that work for Public Works. And you probably know that during the course of the snow, they were working 12-hour shifts over and over. 30 trucks out on the roads in Upper Darby. We've got a lot of little roads in Upper Darby, and it's tough for them to do that. And when they get finished with that, then we're asking them to do something. We do ask Public Works an awful lot, and we are very appreciative of what they do, but they can't do everything. And, they'll kind of roll their eyes when we ask them to do certain things. When we can, we bring out small chainsaws to do little things. We'll go out and do whatever we can. But we can't do everything, and neither can they. We need to have a meeting of the minds. More cooperation between us, I think, would work.
I think there's an issue here. Can you hear me?
No.
An issue here, this discussion point, I think more, if we're talking about trails as being more than recreational, if it's transportation, if it's economic development, why aren't they being cleared like roads? So it's the whole thing about the additional uses of trails beyond recreation.
I can say with this last snow, Chester Creek was plowed. Our trail was plowed by the county. So it was kept open. And I know it wasn't a priority for them right away. I think it was 24, maybe 36 hours after it snowed. Our trail was plowed and it was usable. I walked on it a couple of times since the snow happened. So I guess our trail was lucky in that sense, in that we do have the county to rely on for something like that. And also, it's a 100% paved trail. So that also lends to that. I mean, I can't speak for trails that aren't paved, but certainly having that engagement with the county is a tremendous help for us.
The snow removal is always tricky, and typically in where we live, snow removal in 36 hours is melted, so that's not an issue. This last storm, well, we were lucky that Darby Creek Trails is also maintained by the Radnor Haverford Marple Sewer Authority because the sewer line runs through there, so they were able to plow a good portion of that trail, and it was open for use. The Pensy Trail was not, and we struggled to just get kids to school, clear walkways, clear parking lots. By the time we would have gotten to it, it was solid ice. So it is a challenge, but this is unusual snow. So, but as far as Public Works in general, as we add new trails, it's not like Public Works is getting beefed up because we put a 3-mile trail in. So those resources either come from volunteers or you have to plan and bulk up those. But budgets are tight in communities. Everybody's dealing with how to keep their tax rates down. So it's a tricky thing, but advocacy is the big thing. If people want trails, they want to maintain, they'll let their community officials know, and they'll put the resources towards that.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yes. Yes.
My name's Mike Fuller. I have, with the help of Kyle Gallman and Bill Kaplan, organized a couple cleanups on NC5, which is the segment of Naylor's Run Trail from Garrett to Marshall. That was last year, fall and spring. And one thing that we had to do, special trail maintenance technique, was design ropes with knots in them to lower ourselves down the cement wall of the culvert to get into the creek. But we were insured, thanks to Bill, we're good. We had our waivers. There's a lot of little things like that with trail maintenance, and we'll be doing it again this year, hopefully fall and spring. I did want to say one thing about that particular segment while we're on it. It seemed like low-hanging fruit because it was sort of already paved, but that was a lot of work, and so much. I'm so appreciative for that. Not only because I walk back and forth to work on it every day, but also it's critically important because DCNR prioritizes gaps between trails. They literally call them priority trail gaps. And those trail gaps get money. And more money, the more complicated it is. DCNR is like, oh, it's hard. Bring it on, okay? So that particular segment, N5, is really good. I'm so glad it's there because there's gaps. It creates gaps. And I think the better we take care of it, the more like a magnet it will be. It will bring eyes onto it. It's going to connect us with Havertown. It's going to connect us with the Spur Trail by Long Lane and Chapman Park. It is really a critical piece to take care of. So when you're at those cleanups, get in touch with me.
Can I make one other observation? There is a tract called Barclay Square in Upper Darby, and there used to be a railroad that went diagonally across the square. The commercial opportunities aren't always just open to us. The gentleman owned the particular property. He didn't want to have that developed as a trail. We never understood why, but that's why right now the trail is scheduled to go around Barclay Square. I think it would have been a benefit to him and to his establishment, the businesses in the square, and to his apartments to build through there, but he chose not to. The other one is the Drexel Brook. The Drexel Brook has a footpath that goes through it. The bike trail could go through that area and bring other business to his area, but up until this time, they have not been willing to do that.
Can I?
Yeah, you got it. You got it. It's working.
Can I just follow on something he said, which is the word insurance? And we heard about Upper Darby. I'm just curious what other thoughts are about insuring volunteers in particular. I know volunteer groups, nonprofits, are concerned a little bit about the insurance questions.
Well, in Upper Darby, any organized or advertised maintenance activity, or any activity for that matter, you have to get a permit beforehand. That permission needs to be arranged 2 to 3 weeks ahead of time. You need to be someone who's going to be the supervisor. They need to have waivers signed by anybody who's going to participate in this. So it's a concern, certainly, for the township. I don't hear it as much from the volunteers, but it certainly should be their concern too.
Yeah, since we use a lot of the scouts, I mean, they're generally have their own insurance. It's covered through either the national organization or their chartering organization. So that's typically, and also this county park. So the volunteers are usually covered under whatever insurance with the county.
We would try to avoid letting volunteers use any kind of mechanical equipment so that we don't run into those issues. But we haven't had any issues, and we've done thousands of volunteer hours over the last 4 or 5 years. So I don't see this as a big concern for us at this time.
Brian, when you had your sign up genius, my understanding was that anyone who took part in a township organized cleanup effort was covered as a township activity.
Yes, yeah, I would say yes. We have insurance for activities that we offer through the recreation department. If there was a liability situation that we created, yes, so there is that.
I'll bring up another thing. When Peter and I were busy making trails happen, walking trails in Haverford Township and cutting back brush, people would come walking or jogging by on a trail and see us there slipping away and say, "Oh, thank you for what you're doing." And my response was, this trail didn't appear by magic. And when I go on this trail, I carry my work gloves in one pocket and pruners in another. And if something slaps me on the shoulder with stickers or it hangs down in the rain on my face, I cut it. And you could do the same thing. So you can just empower individuals to take along pruners when they go out.
Yeah, we actually had somebody who asked us if they could clear the Pensy Trail themselves, and we were a little reluctant to do that. And they were thinking plows, and we just thought, we don't know, if you crack the thing, if you go off the road, if you hit somebody. So we said we're not ready to do that yet. Yes.
All right, so we're a little over time. I'm going to go ahead and wrap us up, but please give a round of applause to these wonderful, knowledgeable gentlemen. And I do want to plug really quickly, if you're interested in maintenance and you're interested about these discussions, the Circuit Trails Coalition has a maintenance community, a maintenance call, and Will Fraser, if you'll raise your hand, he's that really tall guy in the back, can get you connected. And then we also, from PEC, have trail assessment guides and trail assessment pocketbook guides for sale on the back. And Amelia is the one waving them right now. They're really cool. So with that, thank you guys so much, and we will hand the mic over to the next presentation.
Okay, great. Thanks, everyone. And who didn't tell me about the flannel shirt memo? Because I've never been in a room with so many flannel shirts.
Last year, you were in the same.
You're right.
I think there were
last
more
year.
flannel shirts, actually.
Okay. Up next, I have Senator Tim Kearney from the PA Senate and Sarah McCullough, his Chief of Staff.
Okay.
Right here. So talk into this microphone.
Okay.
You just have to say hi.
Hi.
And anything else you want to say.
I'm Tim Kearney. I represent the 26th district, which is all in Delaware County. Not all of Delaware County, but all in Delaware County. So I have Upper Darby, which of course is the biggest chunk of my district. Tried to get Haverford down in the last redistricting, but it didn't work out. But we go all the way down to the Ridleys and Springfield and Marple Newtown, and a lot of the little municipalities all throughout. We're a big fan of trails. We've gotten grants for several pedestrian bridges to make connections and extend stuff, particularly in Upper Darby. It's important for us. We we've been pushing in the Senate for what we call Abby's Law, which is a law basically to regulate e-scooters. I think everybody's probably aware of the tragedy that occurred over in Aston with two little girls from Ridley, one of whom died. And we've had several incidents that occurred throughout the district. We've been hearing about it for a very long time. We are very cognizant that e-scooters right now, they're not regulated under the vehicle code. So the official line is that they're illegal to ride on anything but private property, which is of course not what we're seeing, and not what everybody has been doing. We've heard from all sorts of folks, lots of mothers who said, "I just bought my kids two scooters," kind of thing. But we've also heard from people who use them for kind of last mile transportation, getting to train stations or bus stops where they could, the micro-mobility aspects of the scooters are great because you can fold it up and take it with you to your office and not have to worry about it. So we're trying to figure out with the legislation, we've been trying to figure out where we land and how we kind of make that work. I'm with my chief of staff, Sarah McCullough, who, I guess, what do we have up? We have
with slides.
we do have slides.
Just a couple. So as Senator Carney mentioned, there has been this proliferation of e-scooters, and we did have, pardon? Oh, sorry. With the proliferation of e-scooters, we've had a lot of requests to do something statewide. We've had a number of municipalities, police departments who have come to us all thinking they're going to establish their own ordinances, which we know how challenging that is. So I will talk generally about what this legislation includes and what it doesn't. And I just want to say up front, I know there are a lot of different kinds of stakeholders in the room. And so please know that you can reach out. If I don't have time to answer your questions today or we don't get a chance to talk, I give out my cell phone frequently. You're welcome to talk with Senator Carney. You can reach out to our office. We will respond. We will take your feedback. We will respond to questions. So if it's not covered this morning, please know that there will be an opportunity to talk with you more. So this QR code that is here, if you scan that, it will bring up the draft bill that is right now that we're working on. I will say that it is very dense text-wise. It's not super phone friendly, but you can send it to yourself and take a look.
Lots of subchapters.
Lots of subchapters, more than you can know. So it is Senate Bill 1008, which has become known as Abby's Law. And currently in PA law, Title 17 is the Vehicle Code. And Chapter 35 is about vehicles and pedestrians. And what we are talking about is Subchapter A, which is bicycles and e-bikes. But we're just talking about private e-scooters. That's all we're talking about here. So there's actually another bill that talks about shared ride e-scooters. This is just about private use of e-scooters. That and the QR code that is there will take you to the chapter 35 for a little nighttime reading. Yes.
When you say e-scooter, you're talking about e-bike?
No, we're talking about an e-scooter that you stand like the Razor scooters, but that are motorized. Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. So currently in the PA bicycle law, it does things like bicycles have to yield to pedestrians, tells you where you park. You can't just leave them laying in the middle of the sidewalk, tells you how to ride on roads, restricts things like riding them on 76. So there are lots of sub chapters in there that are much more specific, but this is sort of generally how we think about bike laws. And then if we look nationally, I think it's the next slide. Sorry.
That's all right.
I'm not queuing properly here.
Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah, we're on the next slide. So we looked at the NCSL, which is the National Conference of State Legislatures, to see what other states were doing. And this data includes everything up to the end of 2024. So as of at that point, 28 states had already adopted e-scooter laws. 17 states were setting speed limits of 20 miles an hour. 12 were at 15 miles an hour. 15 states had minimum age requirements. 11 states allowed municipalities to ban riding on sidewalks. 5 states required helmets for teens, and 5 states had a one-rider rule. So it just gives you a sense that this really is an issue across the country, and I'm certain that if you take data at the end of 2025, those numbers have grown significantly. The next slide, please. So then in terms of Abby's Law, generally what we're talking about is an age requirement that you would have to be 16 to ride. I mean, if you look at, probably in your own neighborhoods, kids that are riding e-scooters have absolutely no training in rules of the road at all. And so we're talking about 16 up. We're talking about a speed limit of 20 miles an hour, helmet mandate for anybody 18 and under, 1 rider per scooter, all the bicycle rules apply. We're not talking about titling or registration. We've gotten a lot of feedback about that. People who use, particularly with last mile, ride to work, and it is a way for them to financially manage their life in a more of a reasonable way. And then we've also talked about public education, which we've already talked with PennDOT about. We would work with them around a public awareness campaign, and we would also include a question about micromobility devices on the driver's test. So since we drafted this legislation, we've had a lot of feedback from stakeholders, and things have already been changed. And we are continuing to take stakeholder meetings and continuing to make changes. So what you see when you go to the QR code, I mean, my guess is it will generally stay the same, but there probably will be tweaks between now and when the bill passes. Then in terms of other things that have come up and feedback that we've gotten, this is yes, thank you. I'm glad you could read my mind now.
We're getting in sync.
Yeah, we're getting in sync, yeah. So other micromobility devices have come up, e-bikes have come up. We are just in this one talking about e-scooters. We've had a number of municipalities, particularly parents, community members who've suggested that if someone's not following the rules, that the e-scooter is confiscated. We've had a lot of the feedback also from police departments that would be really challenging to manage. Probably the reality is, given how much e-scooters cost, that there are a lot of kids that if it was confiscated, they would just go out and buy another one, and the police departments would end up with a police department full of e-scooters. So that will probably not be in the mix. There's been talk about banning on sidewalks, which my understanding would probably be left up to municipalities. Follow the bicycle rule. And then there's been talk about having some sort of curriculum in schools too, just around educating kids. Yeah, so we are, and one of the things we talked, our policy director sort of reminded me of is I know that there are folks from the Bicycle Coalition here and from shared ride programs that Chapter 35 in itself needs a complete overhaul, and we are aware, but that would be a big lift and take a lot of time to get over the line. So right now we're just focused on this e-scooter issue. Okay, I think that's it. Joe, are there questions?
Let me add a couple.
Oh yeah, no, add away.
Thanks, Sarah. So we have support on this bill from the Police Chiefs Association of Delaware County. We had great meetings with them in terms of when we were kind of trying to figure out, pick and choose, and kind of figure out the best way to kind of move forward. We're already seeing different municipalities. Haverford has their own regulations now on the books. Ridley Township does. I know some others are doing their own. What we're trying to do is figure out how we can craft a law which would be statewide, and everybody could refer to that in terms of their own ordinances. A lot of questions about the sort of penalties and how that might work. And we're discussing whether to leave some wiggle room in the ordinance to allow municipalities to figure out what they want the sort of punishments to be, whether it's fines or whether it's, I think the confiscation stuff is off the table.
It's off the table. Yeah.
But we just saw in New Jersey where they just passed an e-bike law where e-bikes have to be registered and insured. That's something we're still kind of considering, but it doesn't seem appropriate for scooters in the way it does for some of the, because we know some of the e-bikes are so powerful and everything else. The other thing we learned is that the manufacturers can control the speeds on these things. In other words, they can, certainly all the scooter share programs that exist around the country all have different speed limits that they allow depending on what the municipality decides. So for example, in Washington, D.C., the scooters there can only go up to 10 miles an hour. Whereas in the pilot program that was in Pittsburgh was 20 miles an hour. Mm. And that's something the manufacturers can set on the actual scooters themselves. So where we are in terms of process on this, we've introduced it. We've gotten bipartisan support on it in terms of co-sponsors, kind of moving forward. We are having some discussions with PennDOT around some of the issues. They are concerned that, for example, a pothole that a car might not have any problems with could be really difficult on a scooter rider. They would like to have blanket immunity, but I don't think that's really a possibility as we kind of move forward. The other people we're having issues with are the state police. I mentioned the Delaware County Chief of Police. We also have support from the statewide chiefs in terms of moving forward with the legislation. So we're having discussions with them. Their position right now is they just want them to remain illegal so they can deal with them that way.
The state police want them to remain, not the chiefs.
Yeah, state
police. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're trying to deal with that and trying to figure out how to move forward on it. But it's sitting in the Senate, waiting for a committee vote. The committee won't move it forward until they get sign off from enough folks. And right now, like I said, PennDOT and the state police are our two big stumbling blocks in terms of moving things forward.
We got a bunch of questions here, actually.
I have 2 questions. 2 questions. The first is, what is your sense in the legislature of how people feel across the state? I know there was big divisions, rural versus urban, and parking protected bike lanes and things like that. What's your sense of the statewide feeling towards this? And the second is, like with performance cars, when people can get into the computer system with a diagnostic tool and tweak it all they want, what's the possibility for people hacking into set scooter speed limits?
I'll handle the first one first. In general, we have positive feedback from around the state. I mean, there are a lot of people in the rural areas who are riding scooters further distances than they are necessarily in the sort of more built-up areas like we have. Like I said, we have bipartisan support in the Senate. We think that if we can get the state police to neutral and get PennDOT on board, which I'm fairly confident we can do, I think we can move this bill very quickly. In terms of hacking in, it has not been an issue with the rideshare scooters, which is where you might see. I guess if it's your own scooter, you'd have more time with it, right? To kind of figure it out. But we haven't. That's not an issue that we've heard about, but something we'll take back with us and try to think about. Thank you.
I have a question related to. I'm just curious how you came up with the 16 plus. I understand that that's when most children are exposed to driver's ed. Mm-hmm. However, what I see in this township, I live in Haverford, are middle schoolers using that. And just curious as to if you're mandating writing curriculums in schools, moving it down that next level, because I can foresee kids still doing this. Mm-hmm. You know, there'll be, but just curious how you came to that kind of conclusion. Are most states doing that, or what was the thought process there?
Doing it, but many are. We had a look and actually had a lot of discussions with the police departments too about what they see and how it's kind of working. And I agree with you. We see middle school kids all the time on scooters. It's a question about trying to figure out when the sort of maturity level gets to a point where you can actually, because we're talking about riding the scooters on the road. Now, according to the bicycle code, they can't ride on the highway. But they can ride on a road that has a 35-mile-an-hour speed limit, for example, right now. So that's it's risky, right? And what we're seeing, I don't know that we can necessarily rely on, parental supervision on these things in terms of how it works. So we didn't do it arbitrarily, and we were trying to be thoughtful about it. And you're correct that at least at 16 they're introduced to the concept of driving, and most of them are looking forward to it. I was lucky my kids didn't get their driver's license until they were in their 20s, which is good. But so that's kind of where that's happening.
Hi, I just wanted to ask, you kind of addressed it just now, but I was wondering because the entry level is 16 years of age, kind of the hope of the e-scooters is that we're giving children an opportunity to have some ability to become responsible mobile adults and have some autonomy. All these punitive measures and enforcement on 14-year-olds might discourage younger folks from, building that kind of ability to get around. And I'm wondering if we should look more at car drivers, because ultimately they're the danger on the road. It's not the children with the scooters that are causing the injuries and deaths.
No, I agree with you. We've thought a lot about that, and we are, for example, we are having a question that's getting added to the driver's exam about micromobility and interaction with cars, and we're already in discussions with PennDOT about. You're right. The cars are the 5,000-pound killing machines kind of thing, and so hopefully we will get to a point where we can get out an educational piece that's really geared not towards the scooter riders as much as it is towards the car drivers and how we make that kind of work.
And kids can still use things that they power with their own bodies. So you can still ride a Razor scooter, you can ride a bike, you can ride, and learn responsibility there.
Yeah, one thing I've heard is police chiefs and the state police having a lead role in policy on this issue.
I wouldn't say a lead role, but go ahead.
Okay, well, my impression and my understanding of the Constitution was that it's really the police's place to enforce the will of the people. I wonder if a paradigm shift would be better where this was a legislative issue, in which case either it's a direct vote of the people or the legislatures that represent their interests, and then the police should have responsibility to enforce that will of the people.
Well, I agree with you, and I would not say they've taken a lead role in the actual policy. That definitely was a legislative piece that we were kind of working on. We spent more time with the family, Abby's family, for example, about the laws and talking to municipalities who have already decided to make regulations as to how it kind of works. The chief of police and the state police, they're important only because, as you say, the enforcement of it and how it kind of how it does work. But I would definitely say this is not driven by them in any way.
I did want to say, I don't know how much time we have, but there have been whole sessions on micromobility, and we probably can use another.
Very quick. I think education is really important, both for motorists as well. Education is really important for all road users, and one way that there's incentives. For example, if you're a kid and you take driver ed, right, and you're driving your family's car, let's say, they get a lower insurance rate generally because you have been educated. Mm-hmm. And I think I see the legislation, this law, protecting e-scooters. But the other thing as well is, looking at the mix of traffic. That's under legislation. But in the meantime, when we started the Bike Coalition 50 years ago, the Bicycle Coalition in Philadelphia, we said we had almost no directives of where to go because there were so few trails. But we picked the best of the bad lot. People in every county, including Delaware, identified their favorite little streets and all of that. And that's how the regional map got put together. Okay. So that was education. The other thing is teaching people. Bike Coalition does that. Other groups do that. That you really, it's not only safety, it's also that you can do this. Mm-hmm. I had a friend who, he was like 50-something and lives in Swampmore, was working for the Board of Ed, and I said, you can bike bicycles forward, bikes. He said, well, come out one day, meet me for breakfast, and we'll ride in. And he was astounded how short it was, how he could do that. So I think the educational thing is not only keeping people up who shouldn't be there, but also showing people that they could do this.
No, I agree, and we do a lot of work with the Bicycle Coalition. We do a lot of work with bike paths. We're certainly right now. We're actually dealing with not dealing with, but we're working with the family of the cyclist who was killed on Providence Road, for example, and that's something we're doing in conjunction with Upper Darby and PennDOT, trying to figure out how to make a much safer intersection where that occurred. So we're very cognizant of that. I have a neighbor who rides her bike every day to Chop from Swarthmore. So it's even in this weather. It's,
Thank you for everything.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much for giving us the opportunity to talk to you.
Thank you, Senator, and thank you, Sarah. And Sarah said she gives out her cell phone number if anyone.
610-322-5068. 610-322-5068.
Oh wait, no, sorry. Sorry, Brian, wrong slide. Give me just a sec.
Okay, everyone. Up next is my wonderful manager, Brian Barrett. He's the director of Haverford Township Parks and Recreation, and he is one of the main reasons this whole thing happens. So I said one of the main reasons.
She meant to say she's the main reason. Thank you, Elaine. So today my presentation is going to deal with the Darby Creek Trail extension down the southern end of the township. The first leg of Darby Creek Trail was built in 2013, and from a grant from DVRPC. That was almost a 1 mile portion of the trail. That was a fairly easy trail project because there had been the Radnor Haverford Marple Sewer Authority access road there, so it made it a pretty easy build. The reason I wanted to touch on the challenges of the Darby Creek Trail extension at the southern end, there was a couple pieces that just made it a little more tricky to get done, and we've been working on this now since 2020, 2021. So in 2021, let me go back to 2018. We did a trail study of the whole Darby Creek corridor in Haverford Township with the plan of trying to get a trail that went from here at the Haverford Reserve all the way down to the southern end of the township and then ultimately into Upper Darby along the Darby Creek corridor. So that trail, that study identified some of the issues, and some of those issues are what made it a little bit longer to get through this process. So we started the process by getting a DVRPC grant in 2021 to start the extension, and funding obviously along the way. And for anybody that knows, the construction projects since COVID the costs have been going up a little quicker than some of the planners had anticipated. We also had to acquire private property along that trail at 1744 Vermont. We were able to do that. Again, securing funding was always a challenge. There was also a multimodal grant that was done at the intersection of, Glendale and Vermont roads. And that was to improve both vehicular access, vehicular traffic, but also for pedestrian traffic and bike traffic. And that is just adjacent to the trail. That intersection is probably about 125 feet from the creek, and the trail was going to be right along the creek. So, but with that work, there was going to be a spur that was going to go to the creek, and I'm going to show you that in a minute. And also the last portion of it, we did it in 3 phases. The last phase, which we're getting to this year, and we just awarded a construction contract, was involved stream bank restoration. There was a lot of erosion along the trail where the trail was going to be. So the permitting process took almost a year, working with our township engineer Pannoni, working with DEP, and we were able to secure those permits at the end of 2025. So next slide. Okay, and this is the funding that we got. Like I said, there was a DVRPC grant in 2021 for $300,000. Again, the Delco Greenways grant was very crucial with $500,000. And then at the end of 2024, we got a local share grant from DCED for $400,000. The township contribution was $425,000. This is the house that we purchased in 2021. We had actually approached this homeowner back in 2013 when we built the original section of the Darby Creek Trail, asked for an easement behind her house. Now her house is right on the road there, Vermont Road, but it's also the back of her house is probably only 50 feet from the creek. So when we talked to her about it, initially she said I could consider it, but then fishing season happened, and all of a sudden all these fishermen were walking by her house who've been doing fishing in that area forever, and she was like, whoa, is that what a trail might look like? So she was reluctant to do that, but then in 2020, there was a significant storm event that flooded her house. So her calculus changed a little bit and said, this is going to be a hard house to maintain if we're going to have these floods. So the township was able to purchase it with funds that they used from the sale of property that the township had acquired through a DCNR grant back in 2000. And also we got a $30,000 donation from Haverford Trails, which also helped us to purchase this house and to demolish it. So next one. So this is what it looks like right now. It's just demolished at the end of 2025. And this is where the trail is going to be built through that section. Next slide. This is the intersection work that's done at Glendale and Vermont Road. And I just showed you, I want to show you emphasize the pedestrian improvements. Can I see that?
Oh, sure. Yeah, thanks. Yeah.
So they're going to expand the roadway a little bit to make it so that it's you have better sight lines going down Vermont Road. So this is an extension of the roadway into the open space. This is some sidewalk improvements along here to help access coming down from the Pilgrim Garden section and from the Hilltop section of the township. And then there's some curbing over here, and then there'll be some crosswalks in here. But another feature that we wanted to talk about that was part of this grant was this spur that comes off of the the Glendale Road section here. If you go to the next slide.
Yeah.
And that is going to be, that's going to allow us to connect to the Darby Creek Trail. So that little section that you saw on the previous slide, it's a 10-foot wide trail. It's not part of the official trail of the Darby Creek Trail, but it's going to connect to it. It's going to follow Glendale Road, cross a little tributary that goes into Darby Creek, right by Murray Place, and then go into the park at Murray Place and ultimately collect the trail back in this area right here that's off this screen. So this work took a little while. Initially, they had a more ambitious project with PennDOT, possibly signaling the intersection at Vermont and Glendale, possibly building a roundabout, and the cost was just kept going up and up. So they pulled back the scope of the project and just focused on pedestrian access, straightening the road out a little bit to make it easier for drivers to see, and then ultimately make it a little easier to cross that road so it would provide access to the trail. So that's very important for us, for those two neighborhoods which were basically cut off. And we talked about a lot of these roadway connections were cut off because that traffic used to travel. And there was some stop signs that were initiated, I think in like 2023, that weren't there previously. So everybody has to stop at the intersection, but it's still a tricky intersection. It's a very busy intersection during rush hour. So we can go to the next slide. Okay, this is the full extension of the southern extension of the Darby Creek Trail. The current trail that was built in 2013 ended right here at the beginning of the drive at Murray Place. And then this yellow section is the full extension of the trail. Again, we did it in sections, and that was a suggestion by the engineer, and as we were waiting for funding, we wanted to move on parts so that we could keep the momentum going. Next slide. So that first phase was the McDonald Field section, that yellow section there. Next slide. And that was done in 2024. And then the phase 2 was the section from the entrance at Murray Place to right here where the volleyball courts are at Murray Place. Again, fairly easy section, fairly straightforward, didn't involve a lot of engineering. So we got this phases done as the less complicated phases done. That middle phase is phase 3, and that's the phase that I just reviewed and some of the challenges we had. That house was right here. The stream bank erosion was in this area. And then that intersection, the intersection, if I'm saying that right, it's right up here. Next slide. And then that spur that I talked about comes off that intersection, follows along Glendale Road, and then comes into the park. And there's pathways within the park that ultimately will connect it down to the trail here. Next slide. And then we talked about maintenance. As part of our projects of what we were doing, during this trail project. It was also doing some riparian buffer work through a DCNR grant, planting trees, but we're also removing invasives. So here's a picture of the area beforehand, before we did any work. And if you go to the next slide, you'll see we removed a lot of the invasives. We planted, next slide too, we planted some native grasses. And as I mentioned earlier, when we were talking about maintenance, in the last 4 years, I think we planted almost over 500 trees along the Darby Creek Trail, and it helps both for aesthetic reasons. It's, we had to beat back the invasives so the trees that are there can thrive, but we planted a lot of trees to help just repair the whole, the buffer there. So, next slide. And then this is the picture of the trail when it's completed all the way from the southern end of the township down here, and then the portion that was already in place all the way up to just below Westchester Pike and the school bus yard. Now, as I said earlier, we had done the trail study in 2018 with plans to try to go beyond north of Westchester Pike, follow the creek all the way up to here. That is, that's a heavy lift, getting underneath Westchester Pike. There's the township owns most of or has access to most of the area. There's one portion on the other side of Westchester Pike that is a development, an apartment development, and they were open to it. Barnaby's, we had talked to in preliminary conversations back prior to COVID. And then there's a car wash there. We had talked to them. So we think we can get some agreements there, but the amount of money that will be required to get that trail done would require some money from federal government, because it would be significant, millions of dollars. So that is our hope moving forward for the Darby Creek Trail, because it would then, provide trails that would provide access, reduce car rides. People can get up to here, to the community center, to the fields out here, to the trails up here, can get to a number of spots along the road. And then, as we talked, there's the commercial thing where somebody can get to Barnaby's, have lunch there, and they can get to other spots, along the Eagle Road corridor. So we think, the Westchester Pike corridor, which would make for, some commercial activity as part of the trail development. So that was my presentation for Darby Creek Trail. I'd be happy to answer any questions. Yeah.
I think this is all incredible. How are they doing south of you in Springfield and north of you in Marple and Radford, making the thing continue?
Okay, that's a good question. We had actually had some preliminary conversations with Radnor, because there are trails that go through here that go up to Darby Road, just by the Blue Route, where the Blue Route crosses Darby Road. And we had some conversations with Radnor about crossing over Darby Road and going, because Radnor has a portion of a trail that comes off of Bryn Mawr Avenue by our homeowners association. And I think it comes down to Ithing Creek there, if that's correct. Yeah. And then we would have to get a crossing there. So we have had those conversations, but as a lot of people have been talking about, these are processes that take time. And we're focusing on what we can do now, which is that southern end. But there has been also conversations of extending into Upper Darby. The Route 1 corridor would be pretty tricky to cross at State and Route 1, where the shopping center is there. But there has been some conversations, and DVRPC is funding some engineering and study grants that can help us figure out what's possible and how much money these projects would cost. I think I had some more questions.
Okay, I think maybe one more. We don't have a lot of time, and it will segue into our next presentation.
Last year, you mentioned something, the possibility of extending the Kinsey Trail on the other side of Eagle Road. Is there any further thought about that?
Yes, we have considered that. We've had some conversations. I know the Ward 4 commissioner, who happens to be here, has heard from a lot of her constituents. They're at Eagle Road. Obviously, we could manage that crossing, I think. There's also some private property there, industrial park there that we would have to address. And for those of you not familiar with the township, there's also an EPA site there that's doing some groundwater work that we'd have to navigate. But if we were able to go beyond that, beyond the Paddock Park and Eagle Road, because that would really open up that whole neighborhood to the Eagle Road corridor and also make it easier for children to get to school, to Linwood School. Because right now you have people that live within like a quarter mile of school, but they have to take a bus because they have to take the route that goes around those areas that are now somewhat landlocked. That is a Conrail right-of-way that we'd have to work with them, but I think they'd be open to it because I think they'd like to pass on the liability of just open space that they own, but nothing's really done there. The challenge going beyond Ellis Road, I believe it is, there used to be a bridge when the Pensy Trail was in place, and there's actually, if you come into this property from the Darby Creek Road section, you'll see the abutments where the railroad used to run through back in here along Darby Creek. That probably is an area that would be very difficult to get crossed, and then it goes into what's the Marion Goff West. Now, there have been just a couple of preliminary conversations about Marion Goff. I don't think they would want us on the course, but we might be able to skirt the edge of the course. But the challenges there are pretty significant and would involve a lot of funding, but there definitely is, from the residents, interest in doing something like that for the very reason of just making the township more accessible and not having to get into a car every time you wanted to go to the YMCA or you wanted to go to Veterans Field or the middle school or Linwood School for that matter.
All right.
Oh, sorry. Well, I can answer your question afterwards just because they want to get on to the next presentation. So thank you.
Great, thank you, Brian. I also live in that neighborhood, so I would be very thrilled to have a trail. So up next, I have Brian Stike. He is the, did I say that right, Stike?
Stike.
Stike.
Sorry, that was my fault.
Multimodal Transportation Plan and Director for the Chester County Planning Commission.
Thank you. Okay, can everybody hear me?
Yes.
All right, great. Thank you for the Haverford Trails Group for allowing me this opportunity to speak. My name is Brian Stike. I am the Multimodal Transportation Planning Division Director for the Chester County Planning Commission. I'm a landscape architect and a certified planner. And prior to stepping into my current role as the director of this division, I was the trails planner. And even before that, I worked a lot in the private sector in trail development. So what I'm here to talk to you about today is just an effective tool, a planning tool that municipalities can employ to help implement active transportation facilities. And what I mean by active transportation are sidewalks, trails, anything that I'm pretty sure everybody knows what that means. So next slide, please. This is just a quick overview of what I'm going to cover, what a map is, what it's not, how they work, just a little bit of information on how they are used in Chester County. And then lastly, wrap up with some resources and Q&A if we have time afterwards, actually. So before I get that, this is the first of 3 QR codes in my presentation. This is just a shameless plug of our trail planning. We were recently bestowed an award from the American Planning Association Pennsylvania chapter for our trail planning series. It goes back about 10 years. The one in the upper, I would say all 3 of these, or all 4 of these, are actually leading into implementation efforts right now. The top one is relative to the former Philadelphia and Thorndale rail corridor that we recently acquired from PennDOT and are going to extend the Chester Valley Trail within. The blue in the upper right is the Chester Valley Trail West, and we are implementing one of the early implementation projects from that is bringing the Enola Low-Grade Trail, which is being developed across Lancaster County into Chester County and the borough of Ackland. It's about a 1-mile extension. And then the Southern Chester County Circuit Trail plan there, we have our partners at DVRPC are looking at a feasibility study for a side path along Baltimore Pike. It will serve as a heavily used active transportation facility for those in the mushroom community. So next slide. All right, so what is an official map? Unfortunately, if you look at the definition in the municipality's planning code of what it is, it says it's a map that meets Article 4 of the municipality's planning code. So we have to actually put together an English type of definition for that, which is a combined map and ordinance designed to aid in proactively planning for future growth in a municipality by reserving land for public uses to implement the vision established by the comprehensive plan. So it is a regulatory tool that can be used, again, to reserve future land for development of active transportation facilities as well as other things. Next slide. These are the things that you can include on an official map. There's really, I'm just going to step around. I'm sure typically don't read my slides, but I think in this case I'm going to have to. This is what's included on a map or existing and proposed public streets, water courses, and public grounds and associated facilities. Same with public parks, playgrounds, and open space reservations. Next slide. You can look at pedestrian ways and easements, which would apply to sidewalks and trails, railroad and transit right of way, if there's a future rail line or any sort of roadways that are going to be ultimately built in your municipality, flood control basins and things like that, and other support facilities that the municipality may want to do. Next. So what it is not, and there is a lot of confusion about this, particularly because, it's just a map, it's an official map. Well, a lot of these other maps are also official, but they're not official maps. So they're, and that would be a municipal base map, an existing or future land use map, zoning, or any of the maps that may be included in a comprehensive plan. Some believe that because you have it in a comprehensive plan, it gives you the right to do exactly what is in an official map. But it's actually the official map that enables you to reserve that land from what is prescribed in a comprehensive plan. What it is not is a taking. Okay, it's not an automatic taking of property for those things. And what it is and how it works next is, and this is the image on the right is the cover of pretty much what the current standard guide is for establishing official maps. It's actually a PennDOT pub, so if you're an engineer, it's called Pub 703. But this is, this handbook is a really, probably one of the best, if not the go-to guide for establishing this official maps in the Commonwealth. But what it does is once a land developer makes application to develop a parcel in any municipality, it gives that municipality a period of 1 year to begin negotiations with that land developer towards the implementation of those facilities, which may include, the land developer actually building the facilities or providing funding for it or providing the land for it. It all depends on the specific situation. And ultimately, if it comes to it, which is always the last resort of eminent domain and taking, it does provide a little bit more support for the municipality if those should go to any sort of litigation. Again, but it's also something that should be displayed properly in the municipality. So developers know this ahead of time before they developed it. Yeah, the municipality or the township or borough is looking to develop these type of facilities at that location. So it's open and transparent. Next slide. In 2020, we had finished a active transportation inventory that was funded through our partners at DVRPC through the Transportation Community and Development Initiative program. And what we found is we did a lot of surveys, and that work was essentially us reviewing all the regulatory documents for all 73 of our municipalities, which include comp plans, zoning, subdivision, land development ordinances, as well as any other advisory documents related to trails or sidewalks or active transportation facilities. And approximately, we have about 36 or 37%, however you want to do the math, of our municipalities that have official maps. I think we may be the county with the most in the Commonwealth, if I'm not mistaken. I think Delco has maybe one, and there's only a few, I believe, in Montgomery County as well. I'm not sure about Bucks, but one of the recommendations, the primary recommendations we had with these, because we prepared reports for each individual municipality, was for them to amend or adopt an official map so that they may use this to implement these facilities through the land development process. And the reason that's valuable is because they're basically being developed by private money. The municipalities aren't going after to seek grant funding to do that. And it's a much more efficient way to have these things developed over time. depending on the situation, there may be portions where a municipality may develop their own, but missing pieces in the middle may be taken care of through land development. Next slide. This is the listing of all the municipalities in Chester County that employ an official map, and those in green are, which is approximately 2/3 of them, that use it to implement the active transportation facilities, including sidewalks, trails, and other things. Next slide. And for the resources, where you want to go, we have an e-tool on it. It's in the municipal corner of our website. So you can find all the resources that I just spoke about, being the Pub 703 from PennDOT. There's also a couple other documents in there relative to the official map tool. But this basically gives you the same thing that I just talked about here in 10 minutes. With that, that's all I have, and I'm open to take any questions.
Question, is another name for official map a GIS map?
No, GIS is Geographic Information System, and that's just the tool that prepares the map. It's a GIS map is just a map that is created using the GIS tool, which is a software program that assembles basically spatial data that has like lines, polygons, and things like that have data that's associated to those pieces of information that are displayed on a map. So,
I have a question. That is, if you have experience in it, how has things gone in Chester County during that 1 year period when the municipality has a chance to do something?
I don't have that experience because the county does not have an official map, so we're not really we actually are considering, developing an official map for the county, but I haven't had the opportunity to be.
Are municipalities successful in doing this? Are
Yes.
Open to it, or does it come down to the rest of them in the domain?
I think Euclid Township, and they're referred to in the Pub 703 document. They've effectively used that a lot to reserve the space for trail development in their township, and there's pretty significant trail system within their township now. They were one of the earliest municipalities to employ an official map, and I would think it may be going back to the 70s or 80s.
I've seen all the trails along Paoli Pike.
Yeah, the Paoli Pike Trail, I'm not sure if that was done. That was in East Goshen Township for the most part. That was the product of the township moving forward with it. I mean, I think they could have used on, because there is a segment of that that's still not developed. That I think it's been an election fodder, for the officials, because of the eminent domain versus not eminent domain, because they do have an unwilling landowner. But I can't speak to the experience. Sorry.
Any other questions?
Did you have a question? No. Okay, answered. Good.
Oh, great. Thank you.
Thanks, Brian. Okay, we do have the room for another 45 minutes. I want to first of all thank the people that put this together. James right here, Patrick, Bill Kaplan, and Brian. Thank you for putting together a great event. With the help of Rich Carr and Peter Puglianese, thank you so much. And thank you to all the speakers today. You did a great job. You're really, really interested. I think everyone here learned a lot. So go and enjoy each other and talk and, pass your knowledge around. We have the room for like 45 more minutes. I think there's some coffee left and maybe some treats. Okay? And see you next year.
All right. Thank you, Amy.